Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to the WOR Legacy Division. And this is Season 2. Welcome to round number 1 here in the historic streets of Monaco. Thank you very, very much for being alongside us for this event. It's going to be a fantastic one. And of course, with all of these corners, 19 of them to be exact, and 2 miles of circuit in the night time, these drivers are going to be in for one hell of a challenge immediately straight out of the blocks after what was a very intense qualifying session none other than just 2 weeks ago. And I am certainly going to be in the mix with screaming down a microphone alongside my co-commentator tonight, none other than Joseph. Thank you very much for being alongside us. We're going to be in for a very, very interesting one tonight as the drivers all getting themselves ready. 20 drivers all very keen to get going. Could be, but unfortunately, it seems like we've got a bit of a lagging situation with yourself with the microphone, so hopefully we can get that one sorted. But it was a really good intro, I promise you. We will head over into Q1 then, as the drivers all now out and ready to go. As I think one thing we need to initially sort of speak out of the blocks, of course, is the sort of elephant in the room, if you will. I think it has to be NRX at the moment, because you know, we were majorly expecting, you know, the big things, PSR and VSR, you know, continuing on with their major battles throughout last season into this one. But NRX have just come straight into the mix, welcomed themselves back and said, hello, we're going to challenge for the title. And their pace at the moment showing immediately they're going to be in it.
Absolutely. Cinder and Levi, a lineup I like a lot. The two of them debutised when NRX made their return. At the start of this year. They go again this evening, and again, what a venue to do it at. We could speak about the venue all day, but it's about the team, and they are firmly in contention for perhaps the top 3 in the championship.
No, absolutely. I'm just keeping a very firm eye at the moment on some of the drivers who are very keen to get going, of course, in the streets of Monaco at night time. And the request of all the teams wants to really give it a go and join Monaco very early on in this tournament, and decided to make it round number 1. And at night time as well, of course, if rain is predicted. No assists, full wet at the night streets of Monaco is going to pose a hell of a challenge. So certainly looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up as we're on board at the moment with the NRX driver Cindery. Now Cindery is one of the sort of steadily improving drivers. I've been watching him for a few years actually, and in fairness, sort of hopping between different teams and really finding his footing in NRX alongside, of course, his teammate tonight, which is going to be Levi.
Yeah, Cindery, a driver that is known. He's been in the scene for quite a while now, certainly a couple of years, and he's no stranger to battling. He knows the drivers very well this evening, and so if there's anybody that's going to give us a show around here, it will be Cindery. But that is, of course, all in good spirit, because I know what he's capable of, and on his day, he can put in a really good qualifying performance, and as you say, straight out of the blocks, and sadly, into the wall. Well, we are anticipating a lot of that this evening. I think, though, he's away without damage.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that one. It looks like we're still getting a few intermittent issues at the moment. Seems like connection maybe to the Discord there for Joseph, so fingers crossed we can get that one fixed up. But 110.6 immediately out the blocks for Cindery, of course, but on that particular occasion it was a wall at one point, I believe, in the wall just coming out of the Nouvelle Chicane, as OP Robbie in the Alpha Tauri looking fairly strong himself, and into the 1 minute 10.5s for him, as we're just keeping an eye out on Levi representing NRX himself. Of course, will try and be competitive with Cindery. He'll come across the line and he'll start his initial lap time in the Aston Martin, which is going to be one to watch as we'll keep an eye out on TF10. And the first of the PlayStation drivers now getting themselves up into the top with a 109.986. And now we're starting already to get into below 1 minute 10s and looking fairly strong indeed, as alongside this guy's legend as well for TF10, looking very sharp indeed with a 906 of his own. Into the Mercedes with VSR then, another team really that are looking to keep within close proximity of PSR, but now got the challenge of NRX on their disposal as well. Smokey, one of their fastest drivers, fielded tonight in Monaco. Joseph, Smokey is going to be a key player, I think, in this one for VSR.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be running the majority of races this season. You can assume that from the first round. He's certainly looking forward to pushing the challenge of well, those that have moved on, for one of the names being Otis Lawrence, but Smokey up into P7. There's no point taking too many risks, as if you lose a tyre, you are immediately out of the qualifying session.
Yeah, so just go on board and then move over to Alpine. Shazoo, Team Shazoo looking very sharp indeed, actually, straight out of the blocks with Tom to 1 minute 9.7. Louis behind with a 1.99. So actually Shazoo and TF looking fairly sharp at the moment in this first early bit of Q1. Of course, remember, this is Q1, so bottom 5 will be knocked out at the end of this. At the moment so far, both of the Red Bulls are going to be disappearing, and that is, as it stands at the moment, the TV8 team, and they'll be looking to sort of get them sort of find the momentum, you'd have to say. Of course, one of the new teams on the block are TV8, and Velox are going to be wanting at least to try and get one of their drivers through to Q2 if they can and set some foundations rolling in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. They're a team that have diversified across Xbox and PlayStation. They've gone with an all PlayStation lineup, but I think it's important that all the drivers know each other and that they can communicate well, and they'll give themselves the best chance of competing.
Yeah, fingers crossed, obviously, they'll be able to be in that competition. They'll be racing, I think, definitely with the likes of Juventus Racing tonight, themselves in the Haas, and both of their drivers through to Q2, as it stands with their 10.7 and a 10.9. But just in front of them, would you believe, is both of the PSR boys. I think the champions of last season, and I think the champions pretty much across the board in the esports world were PSR, and at the moment, not looking comfortable with a 10.6, 10.7.
Absolutely, but it goes back to what I said about not taking too many risks. Of course, you don't want to be too close to the drop zone, but I think they're just aware that, well, just take it easy, because the walls bite, and as these Formula 1 cars get bigger and bigger, the walls get closer and closer. So if it was a different track, a more open track, for example, we go to Portugal next week, I'm sure they'd be firing in from minute 1. But PSR just taking a steady approach, but unarguably a very strong lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. So just move over to Williams there, and then the introduction of Williams and the introduction of the Summit League Racing team. Nice to have SLR with us actually in this tournament, and so far one of their drivers just sneaking through to Q2, the other actually fairly certainly in at the moment with that 10.6, just hiding behind VSR Smokey at the moment, but in front of NRX is Cindering. But Race Roller, a little bit down the order on a 10.9 at the moment, and immediately trying to sort of set some initial laps in, I think, try and get a little bit more comfortable with the circuit, but as it stands he will be sneaking in, but only just by 8,000ths of a second between him and Juventus Racing Francesco at the moment, down in 16th, and then TVH JTO Forte down the order in the 1 minute 11. So still got a little bit of time to find out there, especially for TV8, and also in a maybe slight shock at the moment. We've actually got an NRX driver down there in Levi at the moment. He's not looking comfortable with an 11.2.
I think it's important, though, that every single driver has got a banker on the board, so at least they've got something to aim for, something to try and improve on, and no collisions as of yet. It will get very busy out on the circuit in the dying moments, and there's, as just seen Race Roller have a little half spin at Raskas, but that will bring him nicely into the pit lane conveniently. But Race Roller, one of those under pressure at the moment, but again, you do mention Levi down in 19th. He's on an outlap straight away. You'd imagine the drivers have gone for a sort of softer approach to this one, just to try and get their rhythm going with as many sets as possible.
Absolutely, just having a look at the OP driver. It's Robbie in the Alpha Tauri, looking fairly sharp at the moment as he's just heading through, now heading into Mirabeau, and it's going to be fairly important now. He tries to find some time, and he has found a little bit, a 10th up on his initial 1 minute 10.5, so that'll push him potentially up above Schumacher, but he wants to try and get within close proximity of his teammates. Another couple of tenths would be ideal, is what I believe he is thinking at the moment, as he's just going underneath the tunnel now into the Nouvelle Chicane, and it's going to be, excuse me, very, very, very close to the wall if he could possibly can help it. He really is pushing at the moment, actually, as Robbie, as he comes across the sector 2 timing line any second now, and he is a couple of tenths up already, and actually gone purple in the second sector, but he's done a Verstappen, put it in the wall ever so gently. Now the game lets him get away with it on this particular occasion, but just bit the dust ever so slightly going through that particular set of corners, as he'll then come across the line now, going out of Anthony Noakes, and the OP Robbie will come across the line and go above his teammate. He managed to find that time. Probably could have got into 1 minute 9s actually if it weren't for the walls.
Yeah, absolutely. Got got away with one. Obviously, we see suspension snap there in real life on several occasions, too, involving Max Verstappen, as you mentioned. But it's good that he's up into the top 6. That will give him plenty of confidence that he can go on and perform special things in this qualifying session. His teammate, again, displaying purple in the middle sector, slight drift around Raskas, but the driver's running an aggressive setup as possible. They want to be able to be nimble, make moves in the race if possible, and his teammate, Ray XC, does go up into P5 with a 10 dead.
Oh, PSR are absolutely flying with Saito at the moment. He was fantastic to watch last season, and hopefully his performances from last season are going to reflect really well in this particular lap as he goes into the 1 minute 10.0s and absolutely storms the charts with a fantastic lap as the McLaren's looking to try and get a little bit more than just the 1 minute 10.7. Actually, one of their teammates currently out at the moment. The Christmas pudding helmet to PSR Wilson will be coming across the line himself, and he's now into the 1 minute 9.9s himself, and only a thousandth of a second down on TF10's Rudy at the moment, so up to 4. So PSR set them initial banker laps, and they knew that their banker laps weren't particularly good, so they took a gamble, took a risk, and it's absolutely paid dividends. They surely are going to be true.
As Louis could throw Wilson down one position, but it's actually starting a lap there. Sorry, the old out lap glitch just throwing me off there, but PSR back where you'd expect them to be, up and around the top 5 at the moment. Just seeing who's out there at the moment. Schumacher's one driver for WOR that I did want to touch upon. Of course, he's been known for 1 or 2 incidents down the years, and particularly on this year's game. It'll be interesting to see how he runs around here. Certainly going well in the first sector, over a 10th up.
Yeah, certainly. I'm just keeping an eye out on Schumacher as well, actually. WOR needing to sort of get some mojo going, don't they, in their own tournament. They were struggling throughout last season, unfortunately, with the WOR Esports team as they tried to find a bit of restructuring within their team. And in fairness to them, they found it and really got the mojo going in their own tournament on this particular occasion. Schumacher 12th at the moment. At one point, though, the high flyers were the WOR Esports team, so how the mighty fall on occasion, and unfortunately, how the laps fall as well. 6/10 down now for Schumacher, not looking comfortable in the second sector as the Alfa Romeo. But, you know, opportunity knocks here for WOR. They've got through, they're in their tournament. Now, the next question for them is where can they lay their initial foundations and start building again?
Yeah, WOR, another team that did diversify, in the past across PlayStation and Xbox. So now pretty much PlayStation exclusive, aren't they, due to the events that unfolded and basically the whole Xbox team just going into a little bit of a collapse, and it never really recovered. They made an attempt, but it's still good that they're able to compete against Xbox drivers with this new generation of crossplay. So again, every single driver on that team will have a point to prove, and of course they'll be looking to get through this one cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just keeping a very firm eye at the moment as I'm on board with M Racer at the moment. So of course, then another driver needs to really find his mojo at the moment. So obviously the PSR drivers managed to really find their pace on those last set of laps, and now VSR's opportunity to try and get in there as well. And fair play to Velox as well. TV8 also getting into the mix as well, with JTO 40 sneaking into P11 at the moment, and the Juventus guys also were at risk at one point, and then now they're managing to find a little bit of time as well, as I think both of the Williams in 14th and 15th just sneaking in. Cindery also on the lap to try and improve where he can. Both NRX drivers currently out as it stands, with M Racer looking to try and improve. Absolutely aces the swimming pool section as he heads into Larascas and then into Anthony Nogues, and wants to try and keep it nice and tidy, nice and cool and nice and easy if he possibly can, and keep it close to the pit wall as he comes across the line now and puts himself P11 with a 10.2, just sneaking in front of JTO 40, but just behind Juventus Racing. So far, you'd have to say, arguably anyway, advantage PlayStation.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, VSR won't be feeling too safe with that one at the moment. 12th and 14th, they will absolutely have to go again. Smokey, one of those going again at the moment. He's on an outlap, sitting behind an Alfa Romeo of, I believe, Schumacher. Indeed, so he's straight out on track again. It seems like we've just seen him finish, but that is just how short this Monaco street circuit is, at just over 2 miles. It is the exception. It's the crown jewel of the Formula One calendar, and what a great sight it is to be here at midnight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful here. Unfortunately, though, for the Monaco residents at the moment, they're going to be kept up all night as they're going to be hearing the roaring of the V6 1.6-litre turbo hybrid engines in the back of these as we go on board with VSR Smokey looking to start his lap now in P14 at the moment as well, so slightly at risk, of course, just behind the WOR driver of Schumacher, just in front the Valor driver of JTO40 who's looking to, like, he will need to improve on his lap as well. I reckon 10.3 is probably going to be the drop zone time, but at the moment, as we have one person who's out, and it's WOR, driver has crashed out, and he's crashed out just at the top of the casino section, and it looks to me as we have lost, actually I think he's crashed it into Mirabeau, somewhere around there anyway. It looks like Jake Marsh has crashed out of Q1, and that is, to put it bluntly, a severe disadvantage for WOR.
Yeah, just exiting casino, so easily done. The track rises and falls through there. A bump as you head into Mirabeau, in fact, as NRX Levi, who's currently bottom, he's hit traffic. He's hit an AlphaTauri, and he'll have to get out of the way as soon as possible. This could be a damaging moment for NRX as their driver, bottom of the timesheets at the moment, has to try and get into the top 15, and he doesn't. That could be game over. He's got to wrestle the wheels off that Aston Martin to get back into the pit lane and a quick turnaround for a final run.
Yeah, and Levi dodging out of the way of the, I think it was the outplayed racing driver of Ray, who unfortunately wasn't able to get out of the way in time. In fact, pardon me, it wasn't. I think it was Robbie, actually, who wasn't able to get out of the way in time as they went into Le Rascasse, and as a result of that one, there's a severe risk here that Levi might be out of Q1 here, and NRX would be a shocking circumstance if one of their drivers ended up getting knocked out of Q1, and it's a bitterly disappointing situation as well, because of course this is the hardest track to overtake at, to put it mildly. As we go on board with the Williams driver number 29, Williams driver Ghost Colt representing the SLR team. Both drivers are knocked out as it stands as well, but only 30, I'll get my maths out eventually, 19 thousandths of a second separating him from TVH JTO40. I think he's just flipped the wall, actually, as Ghost Colt. So if you're looking to try and find some time where he can, we'll see how his first sector is. He keeps it nice and tidy through Casino, then into Mirabeau Haute, and he'll want to keep it close here as he gets through into the Grand Hotel hairpin, and at the moment looking a little bit like he might be at risk here.
Yeah, certainly so. SLR, one of the stories of qualifying a couple of weeks ago, and now they're fighting to try and get into Q2. Speaking of qualifying, and well, looks like Race Roller. Yeah, sorry, apologies again. He's on an outlap just starting now, heading up towards Turn 1. Bit of traffic for Ghost Colt, as that's Aston Martin on the apex. In fact, he's invalidated. So I've switched back to him, so that could be it for Ghost Colt.
Yeah, and I'm just keeping a firm eye on Levi as well, as looking to try and obviously improve his lap. He's had the opportunity to recharge his battery and have another go immediately, so he's decided not to come in and just have another go immediately out of the blocks. Unfortunately, 78 thousandths of a second down in the first sector, so they're looking to really nail here the chicane, because if he doesn't get this one right, he could be in trouble. And it looks a bit more of a conservative lap than we've seen from other people, to be fair, going through into the Nouvelle chicane. Throws the car through to back, but he's a tenth and a half down in the second sector here, so NRX are going to be in real trouble with Levi here. With 10 seconds to go, he's going to have another go at this one. He's got 5 seconds to get across the line, at least have another go on this one, but he's going to have very limited energy, and it's 3, and it's 2, and it's 1, and I don't think he's going to have enough time to set another lap, and that is one driver from NRX knocked out of qualifying, as we have a spinner in Race Roller for SLR. That guy is now out of this qualifying session as well. Josh Gill is also looking to try and improve as well in the Red Bull. He's representing TV8. He's also going to be at risk of being knocked out as it stands as well, but if he does manage to get through, he'll be knocking out, as it stands, his teammates, TV8's JTO40, himself coming through into the pit lane. So it's all about whether Josh Gill can actually improve his lap time, and if he does, one of the TV8 drivers is getting knocked out, and that is not exactly what Valor are looking for on this particular occasion, on this their foundation setting event, really, as they go through into the Anthony Noakes corner and wants to keep the car planted as much as he can, and in fact not really able to get out of the corner with enough grip there. As he comes across the line, it's only a 10.7, so Josh Gill will be starting 19th for the Valor team, as one of their drivers at least getting through. VSR, though, only sneakily getting in themselves, though, through M Racer with a 10.2 and Smokey with a 10.1, but as it stands at the moment, the big advantage there is going to Shazoo, it's going to TF10, and it's also going to PSR. But WOR with Schumacher sneaking in with a 9.8. Good lap.
Yeah, PlayStation dominance in the opening part of qualifying, locking out the first 5 places. But as I tend to say, it's not about the consoles. It's about the teams. It's about the drivers making it happen here this evening. We've gone past that phase, but even when it matters, Shizou back on top as it stands. But as you say, JT getting through at the expense of his teammate. One man had to get through, and it was indeed JT. And qualifying 1 is over.
Qualifying 1 indeed is over, and Louis and Tom for Shizou leading the way at the top of the standings with a 9.5 and a 9.7. Schumacher for WOR with a 9.8. Then you've got the TF10 boys. You've got 9.9 and a 9.9 for them as well. Only 800ths of a second separating the pair of them, apologies. And then PSR themselves 6th and 7th respectively. And then the 2 outplayed Racing boys in 8th and 9th as well. Good racing from them, with Smokey, Francesco, Cindere, followed by J Damage, and then M Racer, followed by 15th place JTO 40. Ghost Colt, Levi, Race Roller, Josh Gill, and Jake March are all out of Q1. We'll be back in just a few short moments for Q2. And we are back then for Q2, and what an event we've got ahead of us then. So, indeed, what we're going to be seeing here, I think, is going to be close proximity sort of qualifying laps here. But one of the drivers, NRX, Levi, out of Q1, would suspect that we're probably going to be seeing a few shooting inquiries about blocking. And what a track to get started with qualifying, really, in a tournament of this sort of magnitude in Monaco, because traffic is going to be a common fault.
I believe it's raining, Jota, as I'm seeing a few sprinkles of rain. Everybody out there immediately. I was wondering why all 50 drivers had left the pit lane. Cindere, the last of them, so he'll be at risk. There is rain falling in Monte Carlo. It's what we were talking about, the prospect of. I mean, it's so hard to tell if there are clouds overhead because it is a pitch-black sky and there are buildings covering about every site of it. So this is really exciting now. We're going to have a one-lap shootout to determine who makes up Q3.
Yeah, and that's massive, with the rain now falling in the streets of Monaco at night, with absolutely 0 assists allowed in this tournament. We have got the worst possible conditions for the drivers out there on the field at the moment. We are raining with people on dry tyres at night with no assists in Monaco. So this is going to be a little bit of a battle, I think, as everyone just wants to get on with their laps and get on with it very quickly. Now, right at the front, would you believe, it's none other than WOR Schumacher, who's getting a real tank slapper going out of Anthony Noakes, and he wants to get on with this one. Now, he's going to set the provisional fastest lap of anyone here, but of course, if the DRS gets disabled, we'll know that it's time for intermediate tyres, at which point, are these laps going to be completely useless, I wonder? We'll keep an eye out on that one then, as he heads through now, Schumacher, as he heads through into Massenet, into Casino, and there is the DRS disabled, so you'd have to argue here that now it is time for intermediate tyres, but there's not enough spray being kicked up yet, so perhaps an early call if people do decide to move on to the inters then, as they head through into the Grand Hotel hairpin and then into Mirabeau, and it's going to be, I think, quite tight here. I think maybe the people towards the front, and that is the likes of Schumacher and both of the JR team drivers as well, who are also towards the front, are going to be in a massive advantage. Who's at the back? One of the TF drivers, TF10, are in a real pickle here, with one of their drivers only just making it through Casino at the moment.
Yeah, he had a moment, I think, coming out of turn 1, and he abandoned the lap immediately. That could be one of our championship favours out of Q2 here. Schumacher has got to focus on getting a valid lap in. Don't worry about lap time. You're the lead car. You've had the most of the dry conditions. Theoretically, you should go quickest with a valid lap as he rounds the final corner now. No DRS, as we've just seen, disabled because it's ready for intermediates, and Schumacher does go quickest. It's now about who else behind them keeps their laps valid. Well,
Louis managed to go faster than Schumacher on that occasion with a 15.4. Lap times coming in 16.17s here, and I think we're going to have a real difficulty. We're on board at the moment with NRX's Cindery here. Real difficulty there going through the corner. Look at the spray being kicked out the back of the cars at the moment here as Cindery comes across the line with a 17.5. Smokey comes across the line with a 17.6, and then we've got Wilson with a 17.9. JTO 40 only with an 18.7, and M Racer 18.9. Legends given up, and Scyther have both invalidated their lap times. So as it stands, and I think that will pretty much be it for Q2 on this particular occasion, we have our top 10. Those that are knocked out, we've lost an outplayed racing driver. We're going to lose a Valor driver. We're losing a VSR driver, a TF driver, and a PSR driver. The top 3 teams that were running riot in Q1 have lost a driver each.
Yeah, this is fascinating now, Jota, because we're going to have a good old-fashioned Q3 with a mixed-up grid, that is for sure. It's going to be wet in Q3. The rain's not going to suddenly go away. We could be seeing intermediate, if not full wet, tyres being used as, Skither is coming out of the pit lane now on intermediates. I doubt he's going to better at 18.9, but if it is going to be raining, in fact, in the race, or a miracle does happen, he'll be getting some practice in, and I do anticipate that some of the other drivers will get back out onto intermediates and test the conditions.
Well, that's exactly what Scyther is doing at the moment, as I take the opportunity to offer my first apology of this particular tournament to the TF team. When I'm saying TF10, what of course I mean is the factory, shall we say, because unfortunately it seems to me that I'm getting TF and the other TF on PlayStation completely mixed up, but on this situation it's the Talent Factory, and I apologise to the team for screaming for the incorrect name on their occasion, and the Talent Factory are flying high at the moment with their drivers, but unfortunately one of their drivers, Legend, has struggled through this particular tournament, this particular qualifying session rather. I'll get there in the end. But now we've got opportunities coming in now for Scyther and Legend, who have both decided to go out on a set of intermediate tyres, but they're going to be probably around about 8 to 9 seconds a lap slower here, so this is mainly just, I assume, practice in the case of rain potentially falling for the race, you'd have to say.
Yeah, absolutely, and Legend is known for some comebacks, but there's no bigger challenge than here in Monaco. You can barely get one car around some of these corners, yet alone 2, so it'll be interesting to see how he performs, but he's getting his head in the game, straight back out on track, which is the sign of a confident, well-disciplined driver.
Well, we'll see, it's about 8 seconds a lap slower on a set of intermediate lap tyres, and we saw 109s coming in, so you add the 8 seconds on, that puts it to a 1 minute 17, so theoretically here, Scyther could be in a position where he could still sneak in to Q3 if that ends up being the case here, but we'll have to see, as he's now heading through very gently through Mirabeau and then into Portier. Scyther for PSR just keeping it very careful going through there, and then of course he's going to plant the throttle down through the tunnel into the Nouvelle chicane. Scyther is going to be wanting to keep, I think, everything crossed here that this works out here, as he then goes through chicane, absolutely nails it, to be fair to him, considering the conditions, as he then heads through into the left-hander, followed then by the, back into Louis Chiron into the swimming pool. They could really classify this entire track now as a swimming pool, to be fair, into Lerascas, and then into Anthony Nogue. Scyther immediately wanting to set a 1 minute 16-17 if he can, but it's looking very marginal indeed as he'll come across the line on these intermediate tyres. He only sets a 1 minute 19.8. He's well down on the set of intermediate tyres. There may be an opportunity to find a 10th or 2 in a few of the corners where he was a bit conservative, but I've got to say, I think it's looking a little bit vague here.
Yeah, it is. Legend rounding the final corner then, and he hugs the inside to minimise the distance over this very short straight. He beats Skither to P14, which might be the most he gets out of this qualifying session now, as it looks like the intermediates are a good 10 seconds slower than the best of the times we were seeing in Q1. However, do not rule out one of the top 10 putting it into a wall here and putting their Q3 participation in jeopardy. They might be through on paper, but if you crash and retire from the session, you're not getting that fixed and you won't be able to head out on track in Q3.
Opportunity to have a very quick conversation with the people in the chat as well, to you all 141 of you currently tuning into this qualifying event, which has got very interesting indeed. Thank you very much to every single one of you for this, as I'm just keeping a very firm eye on the chat at the moment, alongside the likes of Jars Baumeister, asking the question. Oh, sorry, Jamie Johnson says, "Oh, tell Jota that TF and TF10 are different." That's where I made the mistake, and I do again apologise for that one. And they've got people in there as well asking the question. Jinx saying Xbox is not looking good. It really isn't looking good for Xbox at the moment, because as it stands, anyway, we've only got 3 drivers from the Xbox tier actually making it in to the Q3 at Monaco. Xbox not showing their best tonight, to say the least.
That's quite easily said, in fact, but maybe it's track dependent, who knows? But like we've said in the past, it's not console v console. It is firmly 10 teams of 2, and they're all going out there. If we have to focus on the PlayStation drivers being favourites for the title, so be it. They deserve it, and that is being proved here this evening in Monaco. But with 39 laps of a 50% race here at night, it is still all subject to change. Racecraft far more important tonight than the qualifying pace.
Yeah, absolutely right. Racecraft is going to be a big thing, and this one is Smokey absolutely not getting any steering at all on that front end. Very vague as he turns into turn number 1 at Sandevot, and it does clip the wall on the rear ever so slightly. No damage to be heard of on that occasion, but if that was any further of a mistake, we could have seen him being out of Q2, and well, he would have got through to Q3, but with a car that was being completely demolished, and that would have seen him not participate, as you rightfully point out earlier on. As we just go on with Juventus Racing's damage at the moment. No damage on the car for sight, but he'll come across the line himself with a 22.1 and 4.5 seconds down on his fastest lap time. So I suspect this is going to be the fastest lap times that we are going to be seeing on this particular on this particular occasion rather. So we're just seeing VSR Smokey cutting the chicane on this particular occasion, but plenty of drivers not, you know, saying that they're not going to go out and wait for Q3. They actually are giving it a go and giving us plenty of entertainment. And shout out against the WOR's team with Schumacher at the moment. Flying high in the Alfa Romeo is Schumacher, second again as it stands.
Yeah, certainly so. And a welcome surprise to see Juventus, not to be confused with the old lady Juventus, 6th and 7th at the moment. Seriously impressing here this evening. Thus far, is it's basically a parade at the moment for the Saturday night residents of Monaco. I'm sure they're out partying usually when it's not a race weekend. I'm sure they don't mind a little bit of extra noise and a gorgeous, picturesque scene with the spray kicking up from the cars. Yeah,
I'm sure 75-year-old Eileen from Monaco is not going to be particularly happy at the moment with the V6s roaring around at midnight, but she'll be even more unhappier that she's left a washing out. Pick up your washing, please. It is absolutely pouring it down at the moment here in Monaco, as Saito on another outlap trying to improve at the moment on his 19.8. Must admit, the conditions, or at least the spray anyway, doesn't look to be getting any worse, but it certainly doesn't look like it's getting any better at the moment, and with 3 and a bit minutes to go, unless this rain completely ceases now, I suspect we're going to have the 5 people that are going to be knocked out, when in fact Outplayed Racing's Robbie's already decided he's not going to continue any further with an 18-0. He's had enough on this particular event, and TV8 Valor are going to be losing a driver as well. M-Race, as we said, VSR are losing a driver. Then you've got the Talent Factory and not TF10 also losing a driver, and Saito, as it stands, also lost out for PSR. So the top 3 fastest teams in Q1 are losing a driver here. This is massive when it comes to the race, because of course it's not easy to overtake, you know, around Monaco. We're in a position here where, you know, the top 3 teams in Q1 here are going to have to really split the strategy.
Yeah, I suppose that makes for an exciting race, because we'll see said eliminated drivers going longer into the race perhaps, and playing the team game, holding people up, parking it on the apex. Not that you need to do that, because you can barely overtake it anyway. It's going to get aggressive as a result, so drivers will just have to, you know, proceed with a bit of caution if that does happen. But strategy, it does seem that we often have a easy, hard, medium, but around here at Monaco, there's going to be more to that than just the one stop. They'll be thinking outside the box, anticipating safety cars, and those are the best sorts of races.
Going back on board then with Aston Martin, and then RX's Cindery at the moment, as he's just on a little bit of a lap at the moment, and as he heads through into the first of the Mirabeau corners, excuse me, as he now heads through into the hotel hairpin. It is a bold situation here now because, of course, what we have is 7 PlayStation drivers in front, 3 of the Xbox drivers themselves, 8th, 9th and 10th. Xbox have never really been in a position here, and I think, though we can argue, you know, this is not really a PlayStation versus Xbox tournament, it isn't, you're absolutely right. There is still going to be that natural sort of feeling, isn't there, within that. When you've got a tournament with Xbox and PlayStation drivers, you're going to want to sort of stick up to your own platform. So I wonder, are the Xbox platform drivers going to end up having that little bit of extra aggression in order to maintain that sort of composure with the Xbox teams? Or are they actually going to think about the entire season ahead and just say, look, PlayStation have got this one wrapped up, let's just focus on our own thing?
Well, nobody likes being humiliated. I know that a lot myself as a football fan, but it will be there, it'll be conscious. They'll see a PlayStation driver and they'll know, okay, maybe I can race you a little bit differently. Maybe I've not approached you before. Let's see how this one plays out. And often, and particularly this evening, it might well end in tears. And those are where the drivers such as Schumacher, I hate to bring up his name in a negative light because I'm sure what I'm saying about him is not true in a personal sense at all, but he has been involved in these cross-play tournaments in some quite serious collisions. He's, in fact, been banned from 1 or 2 tournaments, so that doesn't help his reputation. But obviously, you know, Xbox drivers will know that. PlayStation drivers themselves will recognise that and know just when and when not to be aggressive this evening.
Scyther on one last lap then for PSR to try and get at least both of their drivers in as it stands. So if Scyther does manage somehow to find nearly 2 seconds, he will end up actually taking his teammate out. So as it stands, PSR will be losing a driver no matter what happens here. But as it stands, it's more likely to be Scyther, as he's already 2.5 tenths down in the first sector already on this particular occasion. So he's looking to at least have another go on this one here, as I'll just actually hop on board very quickly with Sindri, who is coming in the pits. Never mind, we'll stick with the McLaren then, as he then heads through into the sorts of corners here where I think we're going to be seeing the track really be quite difficult. Rain falling down to the lowest part of the circuit, which is of course down at the Portier corner as he heads through the Nouvelle chicane and actually hits the wall on the rear tyre. So he is trying to push as hard as he can, but I just don't think you're going to see that much time available for you, Saito, as he's nearly a second down in the second section. Actually, I argue the rain's now starting to fall heavier again, and he is drifting, and he's effectively just drifting the car around the track at this point, to be honest with you, as the conditions are now getting more and more unstable. He comes into the pit lane and announces defeat on that particular occasion. We have lost 3 of the big team's drivers here, 1 each, in what was a manic start to that Q2 and what has turned out to be a pretty manic event ahead of us now, because we've got a bunch of drivers who were all out of position going into this race. Louis leads the way from Schumacher, though it is 2-0 to Shazoo, who are leading the way at the moment from TF with the Talent Factory with Rude. Then you've got the OP team, followed by Juventus, 6th and 7th. Good run in there from the Haas team. Then NRX have got a driver through with VSR, and then PSR, Cindery, Smokey, and Wilson. The 5 drivers knocked out: Robbie, GTO 40M Racer, Legend, and Scyther, all out of this qualifying event. They will be starting 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, respectively. We will be taking another very short break as we head on to the next qualifying session, Q3, coming up in just a few short minutes. Don't go away. We are back then for Q3, and I tell you what, we are in for an interesting event ahead of us, to say the least now, because we have got a bit of a mixture of sort of things at the moment here now. We're in a position where we've got some of the top teams racing with only one driver. We've got some of the midfield teams that are in there with a real opportunity to set some early pace here now. You know, looking at it, Joseph, then what have we got ahead of us, do you reckon, as it looks like the track has actually dried up?
The rain's still falling heavily, though. That's why the drivers seem to be out there nice and early. It looks like it might well be a straight one-lap shootout, as we might well see the full wets being used later on in the session, or at least nearing that crossover point. So best to get a lap in early. It will all, again, be about minimising risk, especially with the invalidations likely at the multitude of chicanes we have around this track. Tom, though, having a few issues. That could put his pole hopes into jeopardy, particularly as he's now out of sync for the rest of this session.
Yeah, very valid point, actually. One person who isn't out of sync and immediately setting his sights and trying to get out there immediately is actually WOR Schumacher, looking fairly sharp as he goes into turn one now and clips the car into Van der Vos, and ever so gently breaking the wall, you'd have to say, as the ropes into that corner, and then heading into Massenet, into Casino. We want to keep it nice and steady again, losing the rear ever so slightly. Conditions not looking favourable at the moment. Initially it did look like the conditions were drying up somewhat, but it still looks like it's still a bit greasy out there, and you're right, the rain is now falling once again. They head through the left-hander and then into the right, and looking very sharp indeed, actually, is Schumacher. He's managed to get second twice in a row. Be hoping then he can not make it 3-0 for Kazoo, and a particularly good set of performances so far for the WOR team then as he heads into the Nouvelle Chicane, and must say, a little bit of a dark horse, you'd have to say, despite perhaps the reputation he currently has over on the PlayStation platform at the moment.
Yeah, certainly so. There's a reason why he's still in and around the WOR lineup, is because he's a brilliant driver when it comes to pace, and he's proving that. He's out of the blocks immediately again. He's been really alert to condition changes so far in this session. Bit of a drift exiting La Rascasse, and now into the final corner. Again, no DRS for very obvious reasons as he makes his way up this very short straight, and that is a 23.792. The lap time's dropping significantly from what we first saw on the intermediate tyres, which was around in the 119s to 120s, as this indeed is the pace. And PSR Wilson with that lap time, Smokey with that lap time, that could well be enough to put him onto pole. Never mind.
Yeah, the lap times are coming in thick and fast at the moment, and suddenly the Xbox boys have just decided, you know what, we're going to take these laps by storm, and are now leading the PlayStation 3 for 3, but still 4 drivers yet to set a lap over on PlayStation, and more specifically at the Talent Factory, at Shazoo, at Juventus Racing, and at the Outplayed Racing teams at the moment. They have just fielded their drivers back into the pit lane. As I am seeing your comments in the chat, folks. I apologise for the sound issues. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with there, but I have resolved at least the transitional issue. That should no longer be a problem for you guys. As regard to the microphone, though, I'm not entirely sure how I was eating the microphone, because not really the tastiest thing in the world, I must say. Cindery, though, leading the way with that 23.215. So immediately out the blocks, looking fairly strong, actually, are the NRX team with Cindery. But there are, well, they've at least got some drivers breathing down the necks in VSR and PSR. Schumacher also willing to get in there as well, and I would expect at least some heroics from him, as he's just gone even faster and gone into the 23.4s and now goes above PSR to put PlayStation at least into the top 3.
Yeah, and Shazoo Tom at the moment is still having issues. He can't take control of his Alpine, and while his teammate in 5th at the moment has just replaced damage in 5th place at the moment. Yeah, Tom, just keeping an eye on him, because if he's not able to get into the race, that is where the question of restarts and whatnot comes in, as Rudy also late out there onto the track. But note, he is the first driver onto the wet tyres.
Yeah, intriguingly onto the wet tyres here, despite the fact that the intermediate tyre set in 23.2s, and you were right, it did slow down significantly. But the question is are the wet tyres, which are typically 15 to 20 seconds slower than a a suitable tyre in the dry, or has he gone too soon on a set of wet tyres, or is it just about right time for the wets, I wonder? We'll have to see anyway. Let's have a very quick look at the tyre fit situation. You can see there it is. Ruddy is the only person for the Talent Factory running on wets. So he's having a go and perhaps having a little feeling, taking the opportunity to see if the wets do feel any good on this outlap, and if they don't, he can easily pop in and go on to another set of intermediates. So perhaps this is a test for himself and for the team here, as he just goes through into Tabac, and to me looking very, very careful on the throttle, and actually the rain is now starting to fall quite heavily here.
Yeah, indeed, and Rudy, the team will be monitoring his first sector time in particular, and they'll start to make that call, just get the lap in, because it will probably be quicker than those on intermediates, because if the game indicates delta-wise that it is time for wet tyres, it usually means you cannot go any quicker on the intermediates. We've hit that point, you'd assume, from Rudy's adventure out there onto the wets as he makes his way up the hill in towards Casino Square in just a moment on the right-hand side. It does look very, very tentative from his driving.
Not a lot of spray being kicked up though, of course. These tyres can take up to, I think it's 120 litres of water on these tyres, I think is the figure that I have in my mind anyway. There is plenty of water that it can pick up, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be picking up that much in the way of water, but we do have other people moving over to the wet tyre. Wilson and Louis have both decided to switch over to a wet tyre rather. So I'm wondering here, if we are indeed on a wet tyre now, are we really seeing basically the top six all sorted? I wonder, as Ray's just come across the line and actually gone faster than Louis and Juventus's Damage, up into 5th place now for the Outplayed Racing Team driver in the Alpha Tauri, as we keep an eye out on the Ferrari of the Talent Factory's Rudy as he just mounts the curb over the Louis Chiron into the swimming pool section, and of course going through into Larascas and then into Anthony Noakes, and he's very careful on the throttle, I must say, as he'll come across the line now, and his lap time actually looking quite comparable.
Oh, wow.
He's gone fastest of anyone so far with a 1:22.9. Perhaps the wet tyre was the tyre to be on initially, and everyone wanted to start on an intermediate tyre just to set the banker.
Yeah, it did look a bit tentative from what I said in the first sector, but maybe slow and steady will win qualifying here, as TF Rudy shocks me in particular. I didn't think we'd go any faster than that 23.2, but Rudy has, and he's certainly prompted the rest of the field to go and try the wet tyres. Our most recent driver onto the wet tyres in the first one around.
Oh my goodness me, sorry to interrupt. I'm just keeping on board with Juventus Racing's Francesco, as he decided not to pit and go onto a set of wet tyres. He decided to finish his lap on a set of inters, and he's just aquaplaned straight off at Saint-Devot, and he tried to do at least a 360, get himself back on track. He couldn't, so he's resetted back to track on that occasion, but he's now got to get around the circuit on a tyre that's not suitable. He's really pushing it if he wants to get on the set of wets and get out there again. Yeah,
absolutely, no problem about that one. I understand why you interrupted, because yeah, that is his session in danger, and Shizou Louis hits the outside barrier going into the first corner, and that massively set him offline there, and he almost went straight into the wall. Rudy continues to improve 8 tenths now. He's out in front.
Yeah, he's looking sharp at the moment, as he's just keeping an eye on PSR Wilson as he now starts his lap here, and this is the first of the lap times that we're surely going to be expecting as he slows down, does TF Rudy, to let Wilson go through on his lap here. Smokey just going through into turn 1 here, as Cinder is looking to try and improve where he can into that final corner. He was looking for a 23, so he's already going to be breaching the 23s before he gets anywhere near the start finishing line here, so perhaps not a testament to the lap here as he goes 3 seconds slower on that occasion. So here he comes himself, so it's going to be the first. Oh, he just hits the wall as well as Saint-Devot as well, not looking sharp at all at the moment are the Xbox drivers. Plenty of other drivers also on laps as well. Got to keep a very firm eye out on the likes of the Juventus Racing drivers as well, because they're both still on intermediates at the moment, as they'll be looking to try and improve on their laps. The purple sector for Shizou Louis at the moment is looking very sharp throughout this entire qualifying session, as he drops it into neutral, and I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. but it looks to me as if he dropped it to first gear and he's just put it into neutral and he's not been able to progress. So I'm wondering, has he slowed down on a purpose on that particular occasion? I wonder. I'm not sure. We'll keep an eye out on that one as we just see Shizou Tom still in the pit lane. I think that is definitely his qualifying session over and done with on this particular occasion. Disappointing stuff because Shizou are looking really, really quick actually and looking pretty sharp here as Wilson goes fastest of anyone so far with that 22.3 as Smokey is looking to try and improve himself here. He needs to get into the 22s as well if he wants to look competitive. Currently at 23.3 himself, gets a 22.4 but only goes third.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting close at the top. It's what we want around Monaco. The heavy rain gods have saved us here. It's made it a really entertaining finish to the qualifying session, where next up is Cindery as I think he's going to go again here based on his approach to the first corner as he puts it into fourth at the moment, but still 7/10 back from Smokey. OP Ray XC starting his lap now, and next up is one of the I believe it's Juventus cars. It's Francesco. He's got 30 seconds to start a lap. He's going to do that in plenty of time, but still out there on the intermediates, hoping and praying that the rain just magically disappears off the circuit and those intermediates will be back in range again.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really poor call here from Juventus to stay on the intermediate tyre as he's aquaplaning straight into the wall as he goes up the hill after Sandavot into Beau Rivage, and that is him over and done with on that particular occasion. Louis comes across the line and just about to get going with his lap as he absolutely nails Sandavot, to be fair to him, and he'll be looking to try and keep up the performance of the Shizou team, who have been absolutely fantastic throughout this qualifying session. Tom unfortunately out due to a glitch, which meant that he wasn't able to get back into his car as a big clip on the wall from Rudy as he goes through into Sandavot, and then into Larascas rather, as he'll come across the line. He won't be improving surely as he comes across the line, and that is his session over and done with. Smokey will not be improving either. Schumacher only gets fourth in the end on this particular one. Cindery looking to improve. He's 2/10 up in the second sector, but he's got to look for a 22 if he can as he comes across the line now. 22.999 exactly. Manages to get into the 22s, but only just. Ray looks to try and improve, and he's a second up, comes across the line, does get to 22.5 and goes above Cindery on that particular occasion. And Louis is going to be the last person to set a lap time of any value at the moment as Francesco has invalidated on his intermediate here. This is an important lap for Shizou. They were looking fairly sharp actually, were the team throughout qualifying, and they'll be looking to try and keep this performance up if they can as they head through here. And it looks to me as if this lap is going to be over and done with because it's not looking very clean here as he goes into Sandavot. Larascas, I'll get there in the end, into Anthony Note, and he's going to be a little bit off the pace here as he comes across the line now with a 120, 121 and then 122. Forgive me, he was absolutely nowhere near off the pace as he only goes 7 thousandths of a second slower than Wilson. Advantage PlayStation, pole position Xbox.
Yeah, wow, what an ending to qualifying. Louis, who had that moment on his first adventure on the wet tyres, hitting the outside barrier at turn 1, almost ending his qualifying session there, and then recovers just 7 1,000ths of a second in it. Not nice for anybody, particularly around Monaco. What a qualifying we've been treated to.
7 thousandths of a second in the end for that one. Really, really close stuff in the end, and really, really cool to see these drivers sort of raving the tracks of Monaco at night in the full wet with no available assists. But there it is, advantage PlayStation, but all in favour of Xbox in the end with that 22.312. Wilson for PSR nabs the inaugural pole position of Season 2. Louis in the end for second with Rudy in third, Smokey in fourth, Schumacher in fifth with Ray in sixth. Cindery is in 7th place with JR Damage in 8th, Francesco in 9th. Unfortunately for the JR team, deciding to stay on an intermediate, which is rather weird to say the least. And Shizou Tom, an unfortunate glitch meant that he can't get back into his car after he left the session, so he is unable to set a lap time, and he'll be starting P10. Hopefully he'll be in the lobby though as we go through into the event. And I must say here, it has been a fantastic set of events here, but we are going to be heading on into what I think is going to be a very interesting race ahead of us.
Yeah, certainly so. And to break the news, but we are going to be having a restart in just a moment. So the drivers will ready up, they'll retire, and we'll just reuse the same lobby. Lobby reset, sorry, but yeah. Qualifying grid will be reinstated, but sadly, I hate to make everybody wait, but that's what it is.
That is indeed what it is. So we are going to be heading on then to the race in just a few short moments, so we are going to be taking a brief pause whilst we enjoy what I think is going to be a very, very interesting race ahead of us here in Monaco, as eventually we will get a thumbnail on the screen to show that it is Monaco. Hello. We are going to be waiting then for the drivers to go out of their way to sort of get ready for the new lobby and everything, so obviously that will take some time, which will give us an opportunity very briefly to sort of talk about what we had ahead of us then. You know, we joked, didn't we, about what was going to be a very, very interesting qualifying if we ended up having the rain fall. The rain fell, and we ended up in a position where we had a bunch of drivers all out of their way trying to get a pole position in the wet with no assists in the dark of night in Monaco. The toughest challenge out there for round number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just witnessing the drivers create all sorts of carnage as I'm still in this lobby. Rather amusing. Get it out of the way now. But it seems like we're in for an absolute treat. There are drivers outside of position, of course, those eliminated through just making mistakes, just being out too late when the conditions were rapidly changing. And you've got to be on top of that. And if it does happen indeed in the race, there'll be so many options for strategy. It will just be a never-ending cycle of just excitement, really, as I think the last of the drivers are getting themselves crashed out. So we'll be ready to go in a moment.
Yeah, we certainly will. So it gives us an opportunity, as I said, to just sort of step back and just sort of reconcile exactly what we've come as. I've just seen the chat and immediately people saying that the transition seems to have not been fixed. I've muted it, and if that incredible noise in the transition is being so incredibly loud, considering it's on mute, it must be loud. I apologise. It will not be played again. We will fix that one, I think, in due course. But in the meantime, we'll go back to a fade on that one. In the meantime, though, what we've got here, I think, is a very, very interesting set of events here. So we've got a bunch of drivers who are towards the front and now in the midfield, Joseph. We're in a position where we've got a bunch of drivers that are sort of considered to be in the midfield that might be towards the front, and those towards the midfield are towards the back. So you've got this nice sort of layered sandwich here, which is going to make for a very interesting race. Question is, who's at the advantage?
Oh, who knows? Who knows at this point? But I think the drivers out in front have got to rely on their teammates, even if they're 10, 15 positions back. They must know that they're ready to just do something with the strategy. If they could take 25 points and no points, that's better than saying getting 2 low points scoring finishes. So who knows? Who knows? I'm honestly seriously excited for this. As I said to you before we started, got the call up at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Pretty unprepared, but of course it's Monaco. Expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected, and this is exactly what you get in the end. So I'm just going to be sort of wondering exactly what we've got ahead of us. I mean, let's take a very quick look actually at what we've got team-wise, because, you know, when it comes to the rosters, we're in a position where, you know, all of the teams have now pre-established exactly who they want to put forward, and NRX, who are, you know, the team that we're going to be sort of watching this season, fielding the likes of Levi and Sindri, but of course they've got other drivers at their disposal with Magician, Finn, Noctis and Rusty. They've been absolutely fantastic to watch of NRX in the qualifying, and I think, to be honest with you, across the esports world at the moment, you know, we're in a position now where I think we're going to be talking about Rusty. Rusty has been great to watch throughout this season so far. What can we expect from NRX on officially their first season back?
Yeah, you mentioned Rusty, and of course the challenges information has started to roll out today, so his head is going to be turned towards that, but he can use these events to show what he's worth. So regardless of challenges and how that plays out, particularly with the whole console scenario, he can use these races, he can use this championship as a catalyst, into perhaps in the future the big esports teams. We mentioned Otis Lawrence has been league racing for a year. He's now in Veloce. He's got a brilliant backing behind him. He's made, you know, so many accolades already. He's on to the next step on PC. That is Rusty's aim. He wants to follow suit, and whilst he's threatened in the past to go and quit, his head has been in it all the time, and now he's hit his peak. It's time to make that consistent.
You know, that's certainly, you know, the argument you can definitely take from this one, because I think there are obviously going to be a team that are going to be wanting to take things seriously from the get-go, and I'm certainly looking forward to see what we've got coming up, which I think leads us very nicely actually onto the team that also wants to lay a set of foundations as we move over very quickly to WOR, because they of course are a team that was effectively the front runner at one point. Now they're coming on the back of, you know, a little bit of a downfall last season. This season they're obviously building up here. They're actually fielding less drivers than a lot of the teams in this tournament as well. So they're already at a bit of a disadvantage, but they've got some pace in there, and Schumacher immediately stands out.
Yeah, it's again, like I mentioned earlier in the show, a team that had previously diversified, bring an all PlayStation lineup back now, and Schumacher is one of those names that I keep bringing up, and I don't mean to, but he is clearly on it this evening, and he'll be one that the management will be hoping to keeping in the lineup as long as possible. But other names include Carperson, who's got great experience now with the play tournaments, and Dan and Jake as well. They're all a good, stable crop of names, and whilst I don't think they're quite championship material based on what I've seen from them in the past few weeks and months, I do think they are ones to look out for here and there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're going to be looking forward to seeing what they've got coming up ahead of us, which I think then leads on to the champion team themselves, PSR. They've been, again, a team not sort of fielding the more drivers here. They're fielding 5 on this particular occasion, but they've got Scyther, Sav, Stonks, Wilson and Kimber amongst their sort of names at the moment. Scyther leading the way, been a fantastic season last season, of course, racing really well with the likes of Otis Lawrence, who's now since moved on. Scyther, of course, in this position, he is now the leading driver within the team, isn't he, effectively? How is he going to run with the drivers to make sure everyone can get up to his pace and effectively become, alongside him and Wilson, of course, they're going to be the drivers that want to lead the team to newer, greater heights. You know, what should we expect from PSR?
As a whole, they're a team that takes these sorts of prize pool tournaments seriously, and I know that from their boss's mouth, PSR Wexro. You know, they do take this very, very seriously, and they want to go far. £750 prize pool, I believe it is, on the line, and it's a team that do work very well together. Just yesterday evening, I was watching Kimber be a fascinating team player and actually clinching PSR a 1-2 in a 4-man race. So again, it's a team that is very flexible. They can bring drivers in and out whenever. If somebody can't make it, somebody straight in and can perform. So by having those names available, easily contenders for the championship. But it's nights like these, especially with the potential differentiation between the platforms and how they perform at the circuits. They've just got to capitalise where possible.
Moving on then, VSR. Choco, Smokey, M-Race and McCabe Quantum. VSR need no introduction. So much history in this team, and they are now going to be wanting to challenge the likes of PSR, because it was very much PSR-VSR battle, really, wasn't it, last season? They were close with each other, and now VSR are going to set their stats and trying to beat PSR this season. And, you know, Smokey, incredibly quick driver, former WOR, moves to then VSR. Really good foundations for him to lay down, and now moves on into a tournament with, you know, the likes of M-Racer, Choco, Quantum and McCabe. We're going to be expecting good things from these as well.
Yeah, I do like VSR a lot. Smokey is a drive that's developed a lot in the past year as well, sort of following that similar rise, if you like, to Otis Lawrence, who was initially in this team before he moved on to PC and already setting world records. So I mentioned Rusty, I mentioned Smokey as another driver who can maybe go on to follow that path in the future. I don't think he's quite eligible for challenges, so his full focus will be on performing for VSR alongside the likes of M-Racer, who's been a really consistent driver since the game first launched, and McCabe Sam as well made his move from what was St George's Esports. I know they were a hugely popular presence, but McCabe Sam deserved a move and a chance to prove himself, so I hope he's a driver that we see a lot this season.
Talent Factory. So this is obviously the first of the PlayStation teams in this particular list of no particular order from this point. So, you know, Talent Factory, incredibly quick in qualifying. They've been absolutely fantastic to watch. Rudy, Legend, Max, Blackbox, Frankie and Deso rounding for them. They are going to be the team to watch in the PlayStation platform alongside WOR themselves as well. you know, what are we going to be expecting from PlayStation in comparison here? Because we're in a position, I think, where we're going to say that the PlayStation side are going to want to stick it to the Xbox teams, as will the opposite direction here. So this first cross-play opportunity, good opportunity for Talent Factory to really show their worth.
It's Rudy and Legend racing this evening, and I would like to pinpoint those two both because I've commentated several cross-play tournaments now and leagues, and those two absolutely dominating in the field over at the Novus Racing Championship, which does follow a very similar twos format. So they are absolutely killing it. I believe Legend is available on the PC side of things as well. So sort of juggling two balls here, and what they're doing at the moment is incredible. And they've got the drivers to back them up as well, such as Black Box, who I remember filled in for one of the two drivers, and he performed. He was on the podium. So again, a great outfit, and don't rule them out for the championship.
We're just about halfway there now in this little conversation of what we've got coming up. For those that are wondering when we're going to be speaking about the race and obviously commentating over the race, we're currently still setting up the lobby after a lobby restart related to Team Shazoo, of which we're now going to speak about right now, actually, because Shazoo Tom obviously having a little bit of difficulties with the lobby, unfortunately meant that he wasn't able to get into his car, so we are without him in this race until this restart basically happens. They're currently in the process of doing it, so keep with us. We will be in with the race in a very short while. Going back to Shazoo, though, Tom and Louis was so quick in this qualifying session. They really needed to show their pace. They've set it out. They were a bit unlucky with a glitch, followed by, of course, the rain falling. But they still set their sights out and really nailed the times in Q1, Q2. These are going to be ones to watch here, aren't they?
Yeah, certainly so. And in the past, we've associated Shazoo with the Xbox tournaments. Obviously, there wasn't as many on PlayStation. Now they're popping up. They're accessible to both platforms, and fielding this full PlayStation lineup is, like I said earlier, great communication amongst them, and clearly the speed to go with it. And just going back to the old lobby, just awaiting an invite. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I've just managed to get an invite myself, so fingers crossed we can get you in the lobby in a very short while on that one. But yeah, it's going to be certainly looking forward to seeing what Shazoo have got coming up, because of course they sort of were hanging towards the front, and then they ended up falling a little bit behind, so they'll be looking to try and bounce back, I think, from that particular one, which allows us to then very quickly go over to another PlayStation side as we speak about Juventus Racing. Very good stuff from Juventus, actually, to get into this tournament. They're really happy with their performance in qualifying, and to be fair to Francesco and Damage, they really did set their sights out on a good performance tonight. They managed to get through Q2 because they got out early and got their lap straight in, but their choice of tyre in Q3 let them down a little bit, because these guys could have been towards the front here, but they should be on for some big points tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should be honest when talking about these teams. It's not a name I'd encountered prior to the qualifiers a couple of weeks ago. And sadly, their Q3 strategy just letting them down a little bit. But I think you have to try something different when you're sort of confident that you can't topple those at the top. For example, Wilson and PSR and VSR and whoever it might be, you have to try something different. And it's good that they're going into the tournament with that mindset, because if they just follow everybody else, they might have a pretty stagnant season, struggling to get in and around the points. But we should hopefully see them pick up as the season progresses, as we often see with sort of newcomer teams. And I don't mean to disrespect them. It's just quite new to most of us.
Still waiting, unfortunately, on invites being sent out. Fingers crossed we will be able to get yourself in the lobby, Joseph. Unfortunately, I don't seem to see you in the lobby, so fingers crossed we will get that one set up and get you in here. So hopefully an invite can be sent out by some relevant individual on this one, as we very briefly move over then to the team of OP. They have not really set their sights out in this particular sort of start to this tournament. They've not been up there, but they've got some good drivers in there. The bigger name in there, for me anyway, is Asicombe. He's been absolutely flying, I believe, over in PSGL. So he is a driver that I am aware of. I think there's plenty of other drivers in there as well that are very keen to follow in the footsteps of Asicombe to really set some good foundations out for Team OP. But they are really happy to be as part of this tournament. Let's see what they can do throughout the season.
Yeah, OP, a team with good management, good infrastructure, and now a very good lineup as well. Nando, Ashikum, amongst names that I've seen before in cross-play tournaments, and I know that they can make a difference, and I know that they are very likely to be going on and scoring some really good points this tournament. Again, it's hard to pinpoint with the possible track-on-track differences between the two consoles, again unconfirmed, but another team that would like to capitalize is one of the leading PlayStation outfits.
Absolutely. As we move over to, I think, one of the bigger fan favourite sort of teams here, actually, as we move over to Summit League Racing, SLR are so happy to be part of this tournament. I did see the messages that they sent out via their Twitter. They were so happy to be part of this tournament. And Ghost, Sem, Ogween Race Roller, and Elite Risks all part of this particular tournament. SLR, a bit of an OG name, to be fair, established 2018, so they were part of, if I remember correctly, were they 2017 actually? F1 2017 into tournament? I don't know, I can't remember, but really sort of flexed their muscle, kept their sort of head above ground, and they're flying at the moment, and they've got a good team in for what is going to be, I think, a magnificent tournament for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a name that have been around for a while. They've not given up. They've entered these qualifiers and finally got their reward. So really excited to see SLR, despite their sad brief end to qualifying. They've had to wait about an hour to get back onto the track, but soon enough, with myself back in the lobby, we will be getting there. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we're just waiting on, I think, a final couple of PlayStation players, as obviously you may expect, of course, with this being a cross-play. We've got to get EA sort of IDs involved, and it gets a little bit complicated. So this will very hopefully end this this bridge, if you will, as we move on finally to TV8 and Team Valor. They are in the mix in a tournament now. They're very happy to be part of this one through Archstokey, JTO, 40, Maris, and Gilly, rather. Sorry, it's a position now for Valor to really sort of set their foundations running here, because they're obviously a newer team. They really wanted to get their mojo going. They didn't manage to make some other tournaments that they wanted to be part of, but in this one, quite a big name tournament as well, they've made it, and now they must feel quite comfortable with actually some pretty good drivers in the mix.
Yeah, two former FRA acquisitions there as well, in Arch and Stokey, JT, formerly of AEM. You know, two teams there immediately that have participated in tournaments gone by. Maris as well, and Gilly. 5 drivers in a team that are backed now. I know that Ben Hill, the manager over there, has spoke openly about their need to expand the team in paid roles and stuff like that. So it is a genuine esports organisation, not to criticise anybody else on the grid, but they've got high hopes, and getting their hands on some of the £750 prize pool would be a massive step forward for them.
Absolutely. As the grid is now being sorted out, we are going to have a very interesting race ahead of us, I think. We'll be back in just a few short moments for the continued coverage of this Monaco Grand Prix. Stay tuned. Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome back to WOR. This is the Legacy Division, and we're coming at you live from the midnight streets of Monaco, where we're going to be here for round number 1 of what is going to be a very, very interesting calendar ahead of us for this, the WOR Legacy Division's return for this. It is 19 turns, with 2.0 miles of circuit and the 1 DRS zone heading into Sandoval, and then, of course, that inclination as it goes through turn 3, 4, through Casino, down towards the La Rascas corner. It will be myself, Jota, alongside Joseph tonight. Thank you very much for being alongside me for this one. We have got a very interesting race ahead of us here in Monaco as we go live to the drivers all getting themselves ready for what is going to be a very interesting race ahead of us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Jota. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. We've kept you waiting, but now is the time to kickstart what is effectively a wild card event. And what better place to start the season than on the streets of Monte Carlo? It's our first of 3 street tracks this season. It's where the points are going to be more valuable than anywhere. And we have rosters of 5 and 6 drivers, 10 of them, in fact, and a mixed-up grid to boot the season.
Now, speaking of mixed up grid, actually, we've got a very mixed up grid ahead of us, of course. We have a very, very mixed up qualifying after what was a very, very interesting qualifying, to say the least. We're in a position where we had rain falling at night in Monaco with no assists. It's the worst possible scenario for these drivers on round number 1. But they made it, and they made it through, and it looks like this. So Wilson leads away from Shazoo at Louis, who was monumentally fast in Q1 and Q2 and was unlucky not to get pole, actually, for Q3. Rudy leads away for the Talent Factory with VSR, then Smokey, then WOR Schumacher, followed by the OP team in the Alpha Tauris. Then you've got Cinderate, then you've got the Juventus Racing duo of Damage and Francesco, Tom, Roby, JTO40, M Racer, and Legend rounding out the top 14. And towards the back, the final 6 were Scyther, Ghost Colt, NRX Levi, Race Roller, Josh Gillett, and then Jake Marsh. Jake Marsh crashed out in Q1, so he starts at the back. But a bit of a mixed-up grid because, of course, the rain ended up falling in Q2, if you so remember, what seemed to be ages ago now, Joseph. And in the end, we lost a VSR driver, we lost a PSR driver, and we lost a Talent Factory driver who were leading towards the front, and now they're towards the back.
Yeah, obviously, it was about an hour ago we first saw the first spots of rain, but here we are anticipating just what the drivers affected are going to do next. They'll surely be aggressive off the start. It's probably the best chance you've got of making up positions, trying to just make the 2 wide sort of Noah's Ark sequence go, as we're just 20 seconds away from lights out, Jota. I'm seriously excited about Monaco in general. It's a historic venue, but surely a historic race.
Yeah, incredibly historic venue, and it's even more historic when it's in the lovely nighttime scenes as we keep everyone awake in Monaco tonight. And the drivers are all ready and raring to go. They're lined up on the grid. And with those drivers lined up, we're counting down the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a go. The drivers, here they are, and around that inside line, PSR Wilson be looking to defend from Shazoo Louis, no problem at all as it goes into Sandoval. No heroics done on that particular occasion, but Schumacher looking fairly sharp himself, actually, trying to battle with the Talent Factory towards the midfield, and then Ray also making some early inroads as well. As we take a look at the position changes, Schumacher looking very sharp for WR, up 1 position. Tom is also up 1, Robbie up 1, Francesco down 2. Similar situation for Legend, also down 2 as well, as Scyther and Ghost Colt benefit from his demise.
Yeah, absolutely. Legend trying to fight around the outside at Mirabeau. 1 or 2 abreast into the hairpin. And, well, around the outside there might be a little bit of desync on my end, so I apologise if I'm not correlating with what you're seeing, but certainly in ghosting there, Damage, Tom and Roby. Meanwhile, Legend down in 18th now on my screen. He appears to be having some ghosting problems on my end too, so hopefully I'm not just commentating a myth of a race, but it's clean out in front with Wilson leading the way on the mediums.
Clean at Monaco, unbelievable. It is absolutely clean going through Monaco as we finish the first lap, and Wilson already pulling a large gap to Louis already by over 1 second. Difference, of course, is related to the tyre scenario, of course. Medium tyres on PSR Wilson, hards on for Louis and Rudy, which is also going to help Wilson later down the line, of course, because that will hold Schumacher and Smokey back, because it's going to be very difficult to commit to overtaking around here here as we go on board with the WOR driver as he looks to hold back Smokey at the moment, looking incredibly racy is that Mercedes of the VSR, but of course his teammate all the way down at the back on the hard tyre looking to do the inverse strategy as to be expected.
Yeah, 4 drivers then in the pit lane, changing onto the medium tyres. They've got no other choice now, but with the reset of the lobby, they were able, I believe, to just change their tyre allocations. They might have one extra set of mediums available to them, which could make this a very interesting race, and why, in fact, we've seen more drivers start on the mediums this evening, mixing it up a fair bit as Louis just keeping in touch of Wilson. It's important to know that ERS, it's not very friendly around this track, easily wasted. Oh, and we've got our first crash. It's Jake Marsh at the same corner he crashed out in qualifying, finds the same barrier at exactly the same point. Jake Marsh out of the race.
Yeah, Jake Marsh representing WOR in the Alfa Romeo crashes out exactly the same corner going through Casino as he did in Q1. He's out of the race as a result. No safety car being called on this particular occasion as WOR will be looking to recognise where maybe Jake Marsh went wrong as he'll head through obviously into round number 2 in not too short notice as we'll take a look at that one a little bit later on. But in the meantime, PSR Wilson looking very sharp at the moment towards the front, already pulling a 1.1 second gap on those around him here as they continue battle between these drivers in the likes of Ray keeping it nice and steady with Smokey at the moment, of course. And but as it stands here, you've got 3 PlayStation drivers all looking to get in close proximity of Wilson at the moment, but it's actually the 2 PlayStation drivers in front of the one other PlayStation driver that's really holding the pack up with those on the hard tyre.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, we're not anticipating too many overtakes. If anybody is going to be adventurous, it might as well be between an Xbox man and a PlayStation man, because we've seen that many times as we develop into the crossplay era of tournament racing. Meanwhile, DRS is enabled, in fact, on this lap. Just one DRS straight, about half a kilometre long. We're often talking about straights that are nearly 2 kilometres long, so it will make hardly any difference, but the 1 or 2 tenths it brings may well be valuable for this man, Louis, who chases down the leader.
On board with Shazoo Tom as he manages to finally get back into his car. Started in 10th, of course, after disconnecting from Q3. Now up in 8th on a hard tyre as well. Losing ground a little bit on Cindery, but Cindery getting caught in all that traffic in front has allowed Tom to regain that time that he would have lost under DRS. So on this occasion, Wilson get the fastest lap, but then Louis immediately coming out the blocks on those hard tyres. So looking very sharp is the Shazoo driver here, and it may not be all clear cut here for PSR if their fastest driver and the driver towards the front at the moment is currently not faster than the car behind on a hard compound of tyre. That is going to raise a few eyebrows over in the Paradox Sim Racing Team Garage, I think.
Absolutely, and well, Tom up 2 positions, again, as just gasp for breath. It's Monaco, it's breathtaking, that is my excuse. But yeah, Tom certainly up 2 positions. It was him that we restarted for, of course, not his fault. Blame the game, but yeah, especially with how close he is to his teammate in terms of track position. Perhaps it's advantage to Shazoo at the moment, as we say, as Wilson's lead is just etched into again, now half a second as we go on to lap 5.
Following Schumacher at the moment, probably the closest out of anyone so far as race. Actually, a really good corner, actually, going out of, looks like to be Anthony Nogues as he goes to the standard bottom. Actually keeps it nice, close proximity with Smokey at the moment, who's just holding on to P5, actually losing a bit of time to Schumacher here at the moment. So Smokey starting to become a little bit of a bridge between those in front and behind him, and Ray may think, you know what, I'm going to take the opportunity to get this overtake done early and may want to get the move done perhaps into the Nouvelle chicane. Which would be a bold move, but he is getting desperately close now. Is that Alpha Tauri in a big wiggle at the back for Smokey as well, so he's finding it a little bit tricky out there at the moment, but excellent traction going through the hairpin. No overtaking used on Ray's part here, so OP not looking to make the move, I don't think, on this particular occasion, but he's getting closer. A very firm eye on the situation then in that sort of little battle as Cindery just holding on, trying to keep within touching distance of Ray himself here, because he can smell potentially VSR Smokey in the mix here. If that ends up happening, that will obviously be certainly a good scenario for NRX, of course, with one of their other drivers having to pit earlier on. Levi down in P17 at the moment, so needs some good points to NRX. One of the expected favourites for this tournament as well, actually. If if a rookie team. Absolutely fantastic. From Joseph here, actually, about
Yes,
NRX.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I was muted momentarily. I had a bit of a coughing moment after my struggling for speech, but I am back now and ready to speak about NRX. Cinderi up in 7th. I mentioned their lineup earlier. Cinderi and Levi were the debutants for their return in the new year 2023, when they resurfaced as an esports team. Sadly, it's all just gone as wrong as it can be for Levi so far. Eliminated in Q1. Didn't really look like he had the raw pace, but he was unfortunate with the impeding. I believe it was Robbie or one of the two OP drivers. So he's got to fight his way back into this one. If he just keeps it out of the barrier, I don't think catching 16 seconds is his priority. So he'll just be focused on trying to bring it to the next pit stop or indeed safety car window.
You'll like this one, Joseph, as well, because you obviously like the competitions and obviously like to get involved with a lot of these competitions. But here's this for a competition. Ooh. Currently, as it stands, your top 9 at the moment is Josh Gilbert for 3-second time close to the corner cutting. Your team representing in the Red Bull, that will be I'm not particularly happy for their particular team. But as it stands, here's one for competition. The top 9 at the moment, yes? PSR, Shazoo, and then you've got Talent Factory, WOR, VSR, OP, NRX, then Shazoo, then JR. So we're in a situation here where the top 9 are all different teams except for Shazoo have got 2nd and 8th. So monumentally close at the moment between all of the teams who are just fighting it out. Yeah.
Seriously impressed, as well as it being Monaco, as well as having a clean start. There is nothing more to love in Formula 1, whether that be real or virtual, than several teams, almost all of the teams going at it for a point paying position. And well, it still all could change. Wilson just starting to edge back in front now, breaking the all-important DRS, which leaves Shazoo Louis under pressure a little bit from Rudy. It might just start to switch around. We're waiting for the moment, but as you do say, I love a bit of competition.
Well, as all the drivers are just breaking the fingers of the pitboard operators by driving straight through the pitboards, the drivers are getting very excited with 8 to 39 taken, 31 laps to go. As it stands at the moment, of course, now Louis starting to lose a little bit of time now on Wilson. It seems like Wilson's found his mojo a little bit on these medium tyres, but PSR and himself will be very conscious that Louis is really keeping up here with the McLaren at the moment, and of course in doing so he's allowing the rest of the field behind to keep up as well. So when it comes to pit stops, which of course Wilson's going to be pitting earlier than the likes of Louis and Rudy, they're going to be in a position where they're going to maybe encountering quite a bit of traffic, and if that happens, well, the undercut ain't going to work.
Absolutely, we're still a little way away from the strategic options. I imagine about half distance in this race as well. We'll see the bulk of the pit stops for both medium and hard runners, but of course just having a bit of a front wing watch, because it's very easy that the front wing damage can just go unnoticed. I'm sure there'll be many eagle-eyed viewers in the chat of other streams from drivers' perspectives who will know exactly who and who doesn't have damage, which could pose to be interesting for battling, of course, because we saw what Daniel Ricciardo, I know that was an engine failure in 2018, but how his race was affected and how he was just managed to hold on because of the lack of overtaking opportunities. I wonder if later in the race that could come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on that particular occasion it was an MGUK failure, wasn't it, which ended up resulting in him having a reduction in power, and he had to bring the brake bias, I think, forward. Was it something like 2% or something, which is just unheard of when it comes to real-life racing? So, really awesome race, that one as well, actually, from what I remember. But just keeping on board of the awesome race right in front of us as well with regards of Outplayed Racing. They're racing at the moment with Juventus for 9th place. Roby getting very close at the moment in that battle for 9th. As a little bit of a mistake actually going through the Novel chicane from damage. Seems to be damage is starting to lose a little bit of pace from those in front of him, despite the fact he's actually on a medium tyre. So I'm wondering if Juventus are going to start considering their options with him at some point.
Yeah, I mentioned damage, and well, damage might have damage because it's not often we can see with the naked eye.
Here comes Roby.
Stop. And that is Roby in for a very early pit stop, and I wonder if there could be a front wing change here, or just an extremely early pit stop to bring him into clean air, or just in fact a smart undercut, and it just looked back to him. No front wing change in sight for the AlphaTauri crew.
Actually, this might be quite clever from Roby here, because with Team OP and Roby also deciding to pit now here, as we've got a spinning car. I believe it is Ghost Colt in the Williams. I think that's the Williams for SLR. Unfortunately, I've just had a spin going through into Louis Chiron into the swimming pool section, and actually needs a new front wing as well. Roby is going to be in 12 seconds worth of clean air, and he stays in front of Legend here, so as long as Legend doesn't give him too much of a headache here, who's on 9-lap-old hard tyres, Roby's actually in a pretty good position here to just sort of run riot on a set of hard tyres, keep up with everyone, catch up with everyone as everyone's sort of stuck behind each other, and he's going to be able to commit to a really good undercut. So actually not a bad idea here from Outplayed Racing.
Yeah, big fan of trying something different, and that is what Outplayed Racing have done. Their other driver at the moment up in P6 and still trailing VSR Smokey, who is still by the barest of margins hanging on to the back of Schumacher and the DRS range as Ghost Colt exits the pit lane. I'm sure he knows not to start ghosting inside of anybody, because that's when distractions can prove an issue and drivers do start finding the wall. Damage into the pit lane then as well. Another driver that appeared to be struggling. Again, it didn't look like a front wing change, so this is a straight fight now. We're going to see our first racing action of the evening. Roby versus Damage.
Yeah, here it comes then, going into Sandoval. No heroics into Sandoval, please. Will be the reference from Juventus. It looks like to me that Juventus will be happy to hear that they've managed to keep the undercut from Roby on that particular occasion. Actually, good effort there from the team to keep him in front, but of course he's going to struggle with cold tyres at the moment, which when you're talking to Monaco at night means that this is going to be an inevitability as they go through there. And I tell you what, excellently played by Outplayed Racing and Roby. Great overtake as they went through into Mirabeau Hort. Good move.
And you know the cameras are on you around Monaco when you pull off an overtake like that. OP Roby, take a bow. You've had about over 150 people watching that one stick. And, well, he's already pulled away by about a second, making that undercut work by warmer tyres. He didn't quite jump him at the pit exit, but he's gained a second just by having a one-lap tyre warm-up advantage alone. So maybe some of the teams running higher up at the moment would like to take note of that as a possible undercutting mechanism.
Potentially, but of course in order to do that they've got to commit to the pit stop early, and in that situation Roby has now got a massive advantage of just under 11 seconds versus Race Roller for SLR. So in this scenario here, he might be able to get in front of a lot of people in a massive undercut, and I think people, as you rightfully point out, are going to be questioning whether that strategy is going to be a thing. They did. Juventus, in fairness to them, did I think the right thing, which was pit it Damage a little bit earlier on, because they knew that he was struggling out there, but unfortunately just the colder tyres weren't able to switch on. And when you're at night around Monaco where the temperatures are naturally cooler, this is what you're going to expect. Racer then going into the Nouvelle chicane at the moment, looking like he's in a bit of a train at the moment, surrounded by Juventus Racing's Francesco himself, just behind Scyther for PSR at the moment, still only 11th and 12th at the moment, as we now see the first lot of medium pit stoppers coming in, and Outplayed Racing are pitting their other driver Ray immediately out the blocks, and WOR also fielding their driver Schumacher in for a pit stop.
Yeah, Outplayed have seen it work on one car. They're now trying it with another. Schumacher quick to react, though. He was in before, and he's got a good chance of an undercut as well. Let's not ignore that. Francesco, a race roller, in as well for Juventus and SLR. Meanwhile, out in front, PSR Wilson, also on the medium tyres. We're talking about the strategy with those at the moment. He'll be fancying a pit stop sooner rather than later, because those mediums don't seem to be holding up for too long in this race. Hard's just seeing, proving the more reliable tyre at the moment.
Fair play as well to Roby as well, who manages to get the undercut on Francesco as well. So 3-lap-old hard tyres working a treat for Roby, who's now got a 5-second advantage versus his teammate, and himself on the on fresh hard tyres himself, as Legend goes fastest of anyone so far. Legend on a fresh set of medium tyres at the moment, so looking to do potentially a couple of pit stops here for the Talent Factory driver, as we've got VSR now fielding one of their drivers, Smokey, into the pit lane. Racer still yet to commit to a pit stop, but he's on the invert strategy on starting on the hard tyre, so he's now going to be making some inroads down that pit straight as he completely knocks off again his Mercedes co-compatriot holding the pit board and breaking all of his fingers and hands. 5th place, though, for M Racer now, as he's in a little bit of a no-man's land situation with Cypher still hogging his back shoulder at the moment. Schumacher getting an absolute treat, though, in this undercut and making it work a treat. Stays in front of Smokey, 7th for him.
That won't be it in terms of interval time as well. He might be able to find another second, because if you're on board with Smokey at the moment, you will see that he's very, very cautious. Those hard tyres stone cold, the track not yielding too much heat either, so he's got to find that naturally. There's not many high-speed corners as well, you won't be surprised to learn, around the 2 square kilometre venue here in Monaco. We've got Louis on a penalty at the moment, 3 seconds. That could prove huge in this podium fight. His teammate Tom up in 4th at the moment, staying out long there on the hards as well. Whilst one driver picking up that penalty, they'll be relying on Tom now just to not pick that up and be the one that perhaps gains positions in this scenario.
Never thought I'd say this here, Joseph, but I think we're in a scenario here where Ray has ran out of DRS at Monaco and may struggle to overtake someone as a result. He's in a position where I think he could have possibly made an overtake on Smokey, going underneath the tunnel into the Nouvelle Chicane, but the lack of DRS that he's got at the moment in the former Honda power unit in the back, the RBPT engine at the back of that Alpha Tauri, it's just hampering his performance on the what little straights we have, and is allowing Smokey to get away. The crucial thing is, though, is Smokey only has 2% ERS himself going through into Massenet. So we've got a couple of drivers here who are struggling with ERS, and that's just allowed Schumacher not just to pull a second, but pull much more than a second on those in front. And while this is all happening, Cinder, he's not got the most amount of ERS at his disposal either, but easily into the 30%. Going to catch up quite easily on the straights here, as Legend keeps pulling out fastest laps, and like nobody's business.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't quite know the facts and figures of the ERS, but it's scaled, isn't it, to the length of the circuit. You're not supposed to have it for a particularly long amount of time around here at Monaco, as if you press the overtake button, you're pretty much out of it within seconds. As finally PSR Wilson into the pit lane, and we mentioned ERS, he's in dreamland. He's fully topped up, as you can see on his steering wheel and the telemetry. He's out now onto the hard tyres. He'll be hoping he finds himself to clean air. That's what he would have planned this pit stop for. But you see the likes of Schumacher exiting the pit lane now. This could be for the net lead to the race.
Yeah, this is quite important here for Schumacher at WOR. We're hoping this one can be done easily. He's got the gap available. He's got the tyres available. The question is he going to be able to make the move done? We did see one move get done earlier on as he went through into a collision through in the casino, and that is all because of the cold tyres. And that one, no doubt, is going to get sent to the stewards here as VSR Smokey is looking to try and get a move on Schumacher. That is all because of the cold tyres, and Schumacher was caught out there.
Yeah, caught out is a term we should perhaps use loosely. I did mention a history with things like that, and sadly it's happened again. You cannot misjudge somebody's grip like that around Monaco. PSR Wilson will be fuming, and rightly so, as will everybody. PSR, perhaps all drivers and viewers alike, because you don't want to see that around Monaco. You don't want to see that any individual at any track.
Yeah, we're going to be in a situation here where Schumacher, who, let's say, is in a prospective lead of this race here, if he wins tonight and that penalty is adjudicated to be at his fault, then we're in a position where he's going to lose the victory in WOR and the WOR Esports team. So really, really, really upsetting circumstances for Schumacher, and VSR will be the ones that will be taking some good points tonight as a result of that. But in this scenario, people in the chat going absolutely mental, saying that is just absolutely unforgivable scenario. And it's just so disappointing because PSR were on for some massive points tonight. They just rolled riot with Wilson in front, and now he's falling all the way back here. And I'm wondering if he's actually might have got away without damage, in fairness, and it looks to me as if he has.
Yeah, Schumacher, a driver you sometimes question why he runs that name, because having a 7-time world champion in your gamer tag and driving like that this evening, that is not what we want to see. And perhaps he took that restart lobby where everybody was crashing out into the main event, which is what I did nick from Luke, yes, but it had to be said, really.
It's important that we make clear that, you know, no assumptions are being made. You
No.
know, the stewards will obviously make their adjudication about the incident according, and they'll obviously be posted over on our Twitter at WOR League _. Feel free to give us a follow if you're not already. In that scenario, I'm sure that will be given out accordingly, but it's really disappointing stuff. Ooh, a big tank flapper from Roby nearly crashing into the wall, going out of Anthony Notes. But, you know, let's be candid, you know, in that scenario, it happens, you know, it's racing, it'll get sorted out in the end, and I'm sure Wilson will, you know, keep on with the form that he's in, because he's absolutely flying out there at the moment, and whatever happens, you know, he'll keep his head high and say that he drove really well. It's just a matter of whether he can keep up and find the time versus Cindery Ray and Smokey, of course, and themselves. Don't forget Schumacher as well, because Schumacher is still in that fight. He's just over a second in front of Smokey at the moment. He's got the pace, but will he have enough pace to be able to breach a potential penalty if it does fall against him?
Yeah, Wilson qualifying on pole even when the PlayStation driver, looked really comfortable and looked like they were going to take it for themselves. He can hold his head up high, but with a Christmas pudding as his helmet, maybe it's just a curse. It's not the right time of year, is it, Wilson? But that aside, he's back in the train, and he's still firmly on for perhaps a top 5 finish here this evening, and he will want desperately to try and make some aggressive moves of his own.
So would you keep an eye out and go on board with Cindery once again, keeping in closer proximity with the drivers in front of him. And it looks to me as if he's struggling with the RS again now, as Ray gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. While this is all happening, by the way, Louis has also received a 3-second time penalty, only one in this race as well. I was going to mention it, but of course that collision with Wilson took priority. That's quite big for Louis, because of course he's battling with 4 other drivers that are all matching him on strategy, who are all very close to him. You know, that 3-second penalty, if everyone else stays out of the proximity of getting a penalty, he might be in big trouble with losing some positions here.
Absolutely, and well, these penalties are coming thick and fast now, as I think drivers are just starting to you know, feel pressured. We're starting to see some really concentrated trains now, particularly this train running from Schumacher, ironically, down to Wilson at the moment. Ray picking up a penalty, Shizou Louis out in front with a 3-second time penalty. It can only take a safety car, and all of a sudden you've lost a net, 5-6 positions immediately through a 3-second penalty. So they'll be hoping that lightning doesn't strike here this evening. We've seen heavy rain. We could see a couple of spots in and around the Mediterranean, but who knows at this point? Who knows?
Yeah, don't. Please don't. That would be terrifying, as I've just gone on full-on punch my microphone in frustration with that idea. No, if we end up having rain here, that would just really top off this entire thing here. So keep it on board with Wilson. Now on a redemption arc. I think only other animes across the world can match the redemption arc of what we've got for Wilson here. He has 4 drivers in front if he wants to try and take victory tonight. Well, at least 4 drivers in front that are within his sort of strategy. And in fairness, found about 1.1 seconds on Cindery ever since spinning out as a result of that incident with Schumacher. So it's not out of the realms of possibility, because the guy has got all of this ERS at his disposal, whilst everyone else is struggling. He can put it into overtake, keep very close, and potentially make an overtake. Let's see what he does as he goes through underneath the tunnel. Saito with a 3-second time penalty for his trouble. No overtake on this occasion, but he's getting close.
He is, and Wilson very fortunate from his point of view to get away without damage. It looked like his front wing might have clipped the wall, but perhaps with the cold tyres, it was just at so slow speed, he in fact got away with it. It'd be a brilliant comeback story if he was to go on and take a podium here. He's net 4th at the moment on the road with the penalty to Ray XC, so Wilson still confident there is something to retrieve from this race. Skither really struggling here. That's 2 penalties in the space of a lap, and that could cost PSR a lot of points this evening if it hadn't have been ruined enough already.
Yeah, well, it rains, it pours, unfortunately, for PSR. Now 6 seconds worth of penalties on the case of Saito at the moment, who was looking to try and at least bounce back after what was a really unfortunate Q2 over the back of those that are obviously on the inverse strategy. We are expecting their first pit stops to be imminent, especially considering, as we go on board with Schumacher, there is Saito. So now we've seen the front runners all getting close proximity of those on the hard, towards the front and starting on the hard rather. Saito is going to start holding up here the likes of Schumacher, and I wonder, maybe, just maybe, is PSR going to sacrifice Saito on this occasion and say, I want you to hold Schumacher back as much as we can,
hang on,
as we've lost OP Roby, we've lost one of the outplayed racing drivers and he's crashed. Oh, it's a monumental accident actually, going out of the Nouvelle Chicane. So that is right in the middle of the track here, and surely the game would call a safety car in a situation like that one, I wonder. You can see there, look, planted right on the middle of the circuit. And that will be another DNF. But you know what, in fairness, they've kept it nice and clean of the drivers. Just some unfortunate accidents. We've lost 2.
Yes, that's a red flag if I've ever seen one. Goodness me, that's a dangerous place to have an accident, a tight bit of racetrack there. But, well, we race on, and you did mention Skipper maybe trying to hold up Schumacher here. With those penalties, what is it? There's not a lot he can gain at this point, unfortunately. He's just got to rely on those around him. He's not in the DRS of M Racer, who's a good 8 seconds behind Tom, he's a good 8 seconds behind Rudy, and so on. I think he will try and sacrifice his race here and try and bring PSR Wilson to try and capitalise on 1 or 2 of these battles as Ray get it close. A couple of attempts in it between him and Smokey. It is certainly not over in this mid-fight.
Yeah, absolutely not over in this one. If people asking the question, could it be glitched that we didn't have a safety car? You know what, with this game, it's highly probable, to be fair. In this scenario, though, it could be... Oh, my goodness me, Wilson is absolutely pile-driving this circuit at the moment. They're hitting the wall again, going through the swimming pool chicane. He cannot keep doing that, otherwise he's going to end up in some serious trouble with damage, or maybe worse. But, yeah, it would not surprise me if PSR decide to take the action here and say, Cypher, I think we're going to do something a little bit cool here. Why don't you hold back and hold Schumacher, Smokey, Ray, Cindery and Wilson back here and allow Wilson to make some inroads, you know, while people are struggling around the circuit behind you. That could be a call that Scyther could make, but the issue is here, if Schumacher misjudges, he misjudged a car on new tyres that are cold, how is he going to be able to judge a tyre on old, hard compound tyres? That same mistake could end up occurring. That's going to be in the back of their minds if they think about this particular strategy. And I must admit, I think they are, because he's lost about 5.5 tenths in just that section of corners alone here. They're thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do hope it doesn't happen again, of course. It would just, you know, quite damage the intentions, really, of WOR Esports as a whole in this tournament, with Schumacher continuing to race here, which is fine. It's a completely new tournament for him. He should be allowed a chance, you know, in theory, but should more incidents occur, that is where we start drawing the line on things. But Schumacher certainly now within 1 second of Skidder. No DRS on this particular occasion, but this lap 24 is where it starts to get interesting around the streets of Monaco.
So Schumacher now within the DRS of Cypher. Schumacher, of course, perhaps facing the stewarding inquiry after that incident with PSR Wilson, which will be adjudicated fairly and accordingly. And I'm sure everyone will be happy with the result if they, you know, get the result that perhaps they want. But we've got to make sure that we keep it tame, keep it calm, and let the results happen as they occur. As we now are back on board with Schumacher, Cypher just in front of him at the moment. We've got yellow flags waved, I believe, for a slow car. I believe it's one of the Red Bulls. Perhaps Josh Gill in 17th place at the moment. And just keeping an eye out on the performance of Schumacher as he tries to keep closer and closer to Cypher. Is Cypher going to stay out on this occasion, or is he going to pit? I wonder. We'll see as we go through the Nouvelle Chicane. He is, though, definitely now in this train of cars. Are they going to basically hold Schumacher back here?
He'll be conscious of what has happened, and he's all over the place. The sausage curb going through the swimming pool, and that could have been him in the wall. He carries on though for another lap. His intentions are pretty clear. He's not going to give way easily to Schumacher, and rightly so at this moment in time. 30% DRS for Schumacher, a little bit more for Skidder, so he's able to defend with ease, you would assume, but it's just where and when Schumacher chooses to make this move. Hopefully not through the left and into the casino.
Yes, you're going through casino there, and you can see obviously this is the situation report now, of course. Now Schumacher involved in a collision with the McLaren as a result of the McLaren being on new cold tyres, and now we're going to have a situation where Schumacher is now going to be racing with another McLaren, this time on old, now worn tyres, and you'll have to say the least there. He did clip him ever so slightly going through there, and not major, of course. It was just a little sort of tap to say I am there. But Cypher is very easily able to pull away through the tunnel, and heading through into the Nouvelle Chicane stays widely in front of Schumacher. But in doing so, look how close everything is now between all of those drivers, as Smokey getting a little bit of a clip from the rear end from Ray, but Smokey now within touching distance of Schumacher as a result of Cypher's holding up here, you'd have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looked like he jumped over the Nouvelle chicane a little bit there, as that might have picked him up another warning. Clearly just not Skither's finest track, and you can understand that perhaps not a lot of practice goes into Monaco. It's a once-a-year sort of league race. We've got it on January the 31st this year. No overtakes being made into the first corner, but again, it's deja vu. On board with the Alfa Romeo, with the McLaren up ahead on completely different tyre wear at this moment in time. Schumacher getting close. There was an opportunity, he thought, maybe around the outside, sneaking up the inside into one of these slow sections as we plunge down into sector 2.
Yeah, I'm just back on board with Schumacher actually on this one. He is getting frightfully close now to Scyther, and it's going to be a question of whether Schumacher can sort of try and hold back and try and play the patient game and find the gap when it's available. Scyther, though, in fairness to him, keeping it nice and clean, nice and cool and nice and easy. Doesn't want to put too much pressure on, but Scyther, Schumacher's looking for it, and Scyther has to go defending around the inside line, and that is definitely a corner cut and a 3-second penalty, and Scyther was squeezed into the wall as a result. And I have to say, in that particular scenario, Schumacher surely can't hold on to a position like that one. It absolutely was a corner cut in the gain of trying to gain a position. Surely that position has to be given up. One call here as Race has decided to come in now to get on a set of medium tyres in front of us here. So OP Ray trying to keep up with Scyther here on this particular occasion. Via Soft Smoke, he did manage to get close to Schumacher on that particular occasion, but it is a tricky one here. Your thoughts on that one, Joseph? To me, it looked like very much a corner cut.
Yeah, again, apologies, but yeah, Skither couldn't really turn any more left through there. He was just holding his line. He didn't do anything wrong. As Ray tries to go the long way round, I'll just interrupt myself momentarily. Oh, what a move! And again, the outplayed racing drivers around the outside this time at Mirabeau. What an excellent move, but certainly an illegal overtake, whichever way you put it. It will be interesting now. Is he on about 15 seconds of potential penalties? I'm not really too sure how the stewarding process works, you know, different group of stewards, but we're seeing the leaders into the pit lane. It's now game on until the end.
Well, here we go anyway. People have to ask the question. People are still saying he has to give the position to Scyther back, but of course if Schumacher gives the position back to Scyther, he has to give the position up to Smokey and to Ray as well. So that is all going to be the question that's going to be raised, and I think he's probably just going to take the penalty if indeed he is adjudicated to be at fault for it. Either way, situation report towards the front while this is all happening. Schumacher has been battling so hard and has been kept behind by Scyther for so long that the medium tyre runners, those that have started on the hard, have jumped him. So Rudy and Louis now lead the way from those in front. Louis with a time penalty, and would you believe Shazoo Tom at one point didn't look like he was going to be racing as a result of a disconnection issue, is now leading this race.
Yeah, he is, and well, he's still got to pit. You'd assume he'll do it in a lap or two time, but TF Rudy in the net lead of the race with the penalty to Shazoo Louis. Schumacher about 2 seconds behind Louis, also with a penalty. It could bring Smokey up into contention for third or second at the moment, which after his pretty lackluster sort of P5 drive, where he's not really been able to pull the strings and get anything done in this race, it would be an incredible achievement just to keep it clean and get over the line, scoring valuable points for Visceral Racing. There is still a lot to be desired, a lot to be decided. These penalties could bring us an unknown end to this race.
Fair play, though, to the Shazoo team themselves, who have really rattled their way through Q1 and Q2, and we should have really seen this coming from the team, because in fairness, they've absolutely shone very well in Q1 and Q2. Q3 wasn't in their favour in the end, but they had the pace was there for the team, and now they've got one driver leading the way. Now I expect surely at this pace here, Tom has always made a mistake actually going through and actually handed the position back to a lapped car. I believe it was Ghost Colt in there as well, so now he's going to get a little bit distracted. A mistake there from Tom going through into Mirabeau, nearly putting it into the wall, so the hard tyres clearly at their end of their life here. I was wondering if he was trying to get over to a soft tyre stint here, but I'm wondering if he might need to come in and just change that back to a medium now. We'll have to see. 3 seconds of gap between him and his teammate, but of course he's going to make a pit stop, which is going to see him fall down the rankings. But amazing effort so far from the Shazoo team and Louis, and then Rudy obviously trying to get in the mix as well for the Talent Factory. Schumacher trying to keep up, but he's already lost about a second and a half here to those in front, so he's going to be hoping for a prospective third place here as he gains a second and a half at the moment on Smokey.
Absolutely. People in the live chat, interestingly, I'm following along saying that Louis should have been backing up Rudy and everyone else there, but Tom making that mistake, it just doesn't seem that that strategy would be viable anymore. Tom into the pit lane, onto the medium tyres, did not have any damage, so escaped the threshold of the wall there, but Tom will exit the pit lane. Remember, Skidder's got the 6 seconds of time penalties. He's still in the points here. It's Shazoo Tom. He'll be down into 10th, where he started, of course, with that no-show in Q3. And there's a bit of front wing that's...
Oh, crikey, it's Wilson. It's Wilson, I believe, who's just put it into the wall at Sandevot. And that is going from bad to worse for the PSR team. I did say he needed to keep it careful because he was bouncing off the walls a lot, and now he's paying the price for it. He now has no front wing at all, does the McLaren, and now he's in the way of a potential battle that's happening as a go down into the hairpin. Does Shazoo Tom trying to battle with Valor, but unfortunately in doing so has lost the position to VSR with M Racer.
Absolutely. Wow. PSR Wilson, again, just been involved in everything. Sadly, this one of his own doing, hitting the wall on the exit of Sandevot. No heroics, they say. Heroics were performed. Heroics not quite, as M Racer trying to find his way past the Team Valor driver of JT, who has got pretty unspoken in this race, up into P9. This will soon be P8, and perhaps on penalties P7, but Wilson is going to stay out here. He's staying out on track. He's staying out on track. I don't believe it. He's going to another lap.
Oh my goodness, into the wall for M Racer as he gets into a spin, going out of the Anthony Noakes corner and just through there. He was trying to go around the outside of Valor, and in that situation, with Tom, Wilson holding up everyone and caught everyone off guard, gets into a spin and collides with another driver as a result of that one. Now Shazoo Tom is suddenly in the mix as he tries to make an overtake on Wilson, gets the switch back at Casino, and that one pays dividends when you roll the roulette wheel at Casino. Sometimes you win. He got it that time. 8 for him.
Yeah, I can understand why Wilson stayed out there, and obviously the crash wasn't anything to do with him. It was the two drivers behind side by side, but obviously Skither with a 6 seconds of penalties on 30 lap hold hards at the moment. Can't do the whole race, obviously, but he obviously just wanted to make a bit of a gap for them, but I don't think it was too smart from PSR Wilson. There was inevitably going to be some sort of crash behind. Of course, not his fault. You can't put him directly for the collision as Josh Gilly retires in the pit lane. No points at the moment for him. 4 net points on the road, in fact, for Team Valor, as JT will be up in 8th, and that's Wilson with a penalty, and that is Wilson that will surely, finally, be pulling into the pit lane.
Scyther now in the pit lane as well, 30 lap hold hard tyres. He's held out as long as he could and was trying to hold off and battle with Schumacher, but in the end, it wasn't going to be, and in that scenario, now PSR at serious risk of not getting good points here, and the reigning champions of many esports leagues across this esports world are going to be starting on the back foot around here in Monaco. What a track to start at, and what a track it has been, unfortunately, for PSR. They've really not been able to fall well. As it stands, though, advantage falls for Shazoo's Louis, leading the way at the moment of everyone so far, but that 3-second penalty hanging over his shoulders is really hampering his performance. He has to try and find at least another couple of laps here on Rudy, a couple of seconds rather on Rudy, if he wants to try and take the victory, and a well-deserved victory for this entire race weekend, because Shazoo Louis has been unstoppable.
Yeah, this hard medium strategy going very long into the race and relying everybody fighting behind them has worked absolute wonders, and they're just extending the gap lap by lap, but it's on Louis to try and double his lead, essentially, try and get it to 3 seconds to have a shout of winning this race, or it could take Rudy to pick up his final track limit warning. I'll investigate that as we approach the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on that one as well. We'll take a quick look at the penalty situation. There it is, as penalties now starting to come in thick and fast at the moment. Shazoo Louis leading the way with a 3-second penalty. Actually finds 3/10 on this lap versus Rudy at the moment, so Rudy just trying to find his mojo and stay within that 3-second gap. Schumacher has a 3-second penalty as well. That would see him actually fall out off of the podium, and Smokey would take that for VSR, and it'll be the only Xbox sort of person to get within the top 6 as it stands, or top 5 rather, with Cindery in 6th place. And then you've got Ray with a 3-second time penalty as well, and then towards the midfield, Legend, Race Roller, Damage, Scyther, Levi, Wilson and Colt, all with 3-second penalties themselves. And that is not the entire scenario that he wants, as Scyther has crashed at Casino, and that has brought what is more misery to Paradox Sim Racing at the moment, and it's been absolutely disappointing for the McLaren outfit here, as I'm not seeing any indication of a safety car on this particular occasion either here. But this is now going to go all the way down to the wire as his car is picked up. There may be debris on the circuit, but we continue racing.
Yeah, we do continue racing. It's our third crash on the circuit that has failed to bring out a safety car. So I don't know if there's actually any safety teams here at Monaco this evening, but if there is, they're doing an incredible job of keeping that running. That would be about 3 red flags if it was real life. But we've got a battle. It's between M-Racer and it's between Levi. Into to back, surely not. M-Racer trying to go the long way round. Levi defends well. 1 lap old soft tyres versus 22 lap old hard tyres. It's a complete mismatch on any other circuit, but because it's Monaco, here we go.
Crikey racing. We've got some great racing happening here between Shizou Tom and NOX Cindery at the moment. New mediums versus old hards.
Oh.
It's getting into a half spin going through Portier. And I tell you what, that was some really good side-by-side racing all the way down the hill, and Shizou Tom comes out on top.
Wow, you cut me off very quickly there, and rightly so, as M-Racer and Levi are actually still going at it. So double the battles on the circuit right now, but Shizou Tom getting a good move done there, and it had to be done around one of the tightest sections of track. He's up into 6th. Should he gain about 7 seconds, he'll be up at the moment into net 5th, which would be incredible. Having started 10th, leading the race for some point, his teammate out in front, still extending the gap crucially.
New medium tyres, 4 laps to go, and 10-second gap in front. What can Tom do now for Shizou to maximise the amount of points that they can get? Can they get anywhere near the battle with the likes of Smokey and Rain, potentially make some inroads? Or is 6th the maximum that he's going to be looking for? At the moment, he is absolutely pushing the car to the maximum at the moment. Nearly hitting the walls, actually, going through Casino and then heading through into the Mirabeau and the Mirabeau corners, and, of course, in between them, the Grand Hotel hairpin. Good stuff at the moment from Tom as he tries to keep on that little battle there, as we just keep an eye out towards the front, of course. Now, of course, this is all about that battle for the victory here, and it's not necessarily a battle between the drivers. Ray, the situation of them racing, more so about the 3-second penalty that's on Louis' head at the moment. 1.6 seconds, he's got half the time that he needs in order to keep the victory versus the Talent Factory driver Rudy, but it is all about whether he can find the other half of it in less than 3 laps.
Yes, certainly so. Just on penalty watch, and Louis is 1 warning away, I understand, from another 3-second penalty, while Rudy is 1 warning away from his first 3-second penalty. This could go in either direction, folks. It is all to play for here by the definition of a white line, pretty much. That is what it's coming down to. We've got a yellow flag, as I think there's a congregation of cars heading around the nose here.
As we've got a little bit of battle happening at the Nouvelle Chicane between the likes of Tom. Oh, Wilson and Tom, and Tom is out of the race. He was pushing as hard as he can to keep in touch with each other, and now Shizou Tom is going to drop points for Shizou. So in all of that battle, to try and at least get something more than 6th place, he's made a mistake and crashed out in the process, as Louis is getting into a battle with people who are on a lapped car at the moment, and they're in a battle themselves between Wilson and Levi. So the blue flags are going to be waving. They're going to have to get out of the way in the hope that they can not gain some time, as JL Damage is also out as he crashes the Casino as well. More people also losing out here with 2 laps to go. So we've got drop points happening left, right and centre at the moment.
Unbelievable. That's what, the 4th or 5th crash this evening at that corner. Casino
Whoa,
goodness me! Louis!
Yeah, just Louis, straight up, nearly getting
just
into
Louis.
a complete tank slapper. And I think it's because he's getting distracted with all of these lap cars which are not getting out of his way, and you can't you can blame them because the rulebook says get out of the way, but you can't blame them because they're in their own little battle at the moment for 12th place, with Levi very happy to take up any position versus Wilson at the moment, as they're getting into a little proximity battle here. Ghosting has been turned on, so he could theoretically ghost through the car if he wanted to. In this particular occasion, he chooses not to, does Wilson, as he still remains ghosted. And I think the reason why he's remaining ghosted is because he's got another car behind him in Rudy, and now Rudy could lose a bucket of time in battling here as well. So this could absolutely change who the race victor is tonight, as there's a big slide there from Levi, trying to battle hard here as TF Rudy tries to get out of the way here, and there he goes. So Wilson gives the position up immediately here. Now the question is whether Levi will do the same for NRX, as they now head down and up the straight and up the hill He doesn't hesitate easily there to let that position go, but Wilson is still trying to battle hard here as he potentially gets into the battle, but in fairness to him, good sportsmanship. I don't think he's using the ghosting to his advantage here as he goes for the dive, potentially chooses not to, gets cut off immediately by Levi.
Unbelievable race here, and it's a shame the cars are ghosted at the moment because effectively they're pushing each other around, but because of the lead car situation, they've actually caused a little bit of havoc for this race victory. Pressure on for Rudy. Can't pick up that third and final warning. He's got a second to avoid losing in terms of race time on the final lap here. Surely Louis has got to give it absolutely everything because he either finishes second or 3 seconds.
Side, going through to back, isn't going to work except there though. Good move for Wilson around the outside of to back. It gets the move done. Great move. And Levi, out of frustration, puts it in the wall, I suspect. He was holding him back on old hard tyres, but what a move from PSR. And they might not get the position that they probably rightfully deserve here, but that is just the epic proportions of the racing from Wilson. Great stuff from the McLaren.
Yeah, sorry, that was me on penalty watch again, but again, back to Louis. I was going to say he either finishes second with a 3-second penalty or second with a 6-second penalty. He's got to give it everything. That is what he's doing. Final lap.
Final lap indeed as we go back on board with Louis, who was hoping that potentially with those ghosted lapped cars that he might be able to find some time. He has found some time, but it might not be enough. Gap 2.4 going through into the Portier corner. This is going to be crucial now. Every corner and every step that they take is going to be at the best of their ability as they head through then into the Nouvelle chicane. He will push as hard as he can to try and find the 3-second gap that he needs in order to take the inaugural victory of this Season 2 Legacy Division race, and round number 1, of course, here in Monaco. And what a race it has been from start to finish, but in the end with a gap of 2.4 as he goes through into La Rascasse. It looks to me as if Rudy is just keeping it gentle because he knows that the inevitability here is that Louis is going to come across the line to take the checkered flag, but the team of the Talent Factory will take the victory in Monaco through Rudy tonight. And then 23 seconds back, Schumacher has been pushing at his absolute limit, in fact possibly going beyond his limit on occasion to take what is going to be a very, very big question mark of whether this is going to be a podium or not. He's got the time penalty for track extension anyway. He'll come across the line to take third, but Smokey will take the final spot on the podium. But with impending penalties potentially on Schumacher's name, fourth might not be something that he will be getting. Here comes Cindery, then he's trying to battle hard at the moment with a lap car. I think it's one of the Williams potentially of Colt as he finishes in 14th. Cindery will finish in 6th with TV8, getting JTO 40 to 7th, with Juventus Racing taking 8th, and that will be a cracking result there as we're still racing on circuit at the moment between mediums on 28 lap old hards and hards on 26 as Race Roller is trying to battle with the Talent Factory's legend at the moment. It was 23 seconds back from the checkered flag as he comes across into La Rascasse, into Anthony Nogues. They're going to have to keep it nice and tidy if they possibly can, and with the overtake button hot on the heels of Race Roller, it won't be enough straight to try and get 10th place off of the Talent Factory's legend. What a race indeed that was. Monaco usually doesn't bring excitement like that.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to shout out legend there at the end. 28 lap old mediums. I didn't realise that was possible for a start. I cannot believe he's gone that far into the race on mediums. He pit early on off the hards, I do believe, because of damage. He was lounging around 18th, 19th, picked up places through collisions and crashes on the circuit, and somehow he's finished 9th, still on the lead lap as well, which is mighty impressive. 27 points scored there for Talent Factory at the opening round. Surely they lead the championship comfortably after round 1.
Yeah, good stuff from the Talent Factory actually. They showed some real premise in qualifying, and that consistency showed real good dividends as they take the top step of the podium post penalties in game. Anyway, the scenario is that the Talent Factory is showing some serious talent with that famous victory tonight, and I think disappointing stuff for Louis. It's another P2 this race weekend, three in this entire race weekend, Q1, Q2 and the race. So he will be happy for the team. I think a really good performance all round, except the unfortunate crash for Tom, which really should have been a 6th place, let's be candid, and then 3rd place in the end going to VSR Smokey. You would think that will be retribution perhaps for the incident of the German driver in 4th place Schumacher, who may be facing the wrath for the stewards from perhaps up to 3 incidents tonight. That will be one to watch. Keep an eye out, of course, on our Twitter at WOR League _ for that one. OP Ray, great performance, I must say, from the Outplayed Racing team. They've been absolutely fantastic to watch with Ray as he makes some cracking moves around the outside. Finishes in 5th with Cindery in 6th, JTO 14th, 7th, Francesco and Legend 8th and 9th respectively, with Race Roller in 10th, then Racer in 11th, rounding out the top 11. And PSR, absolutely shocking circumstances with Wilson in the end. He should have really been on it for the race victory tonight. What a cracking performance here in Monaco, though. Been absolutely fascinating. Joseph, your final thoughts?
Loved every second of it. Almost 2.5 hours of action for your Tuesday evening, and well, there's going to be 13 more races to come. If you thought that was good, wait until you see some wide open circuits such as Portugal in a week's time. It is going to be an absolutely incredible season. If the first one was any good, this one has high expectations to live up to, and I think it's matched that just by having Monaco on the calendar in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up. It's going to be a very, very interesting scenario ahead of us, because when we look forward to the upcoming calendar, Monaco now taken out off this list, we now move forward, as I'm seeing already multiple people already complaining tonight. Good luck, Luke and the co, for the rest of the evening, to say the least. We move forward to the next race, of course, which is happening in just 1 week's time in Portugal for what is going to be another very fascinating race. But after Portugal, we go to Belgium, which of course will also have a sprint race. So very much looking forward to that one. But that is it for WRLD, and what a fantastic first round it has been. From myself, Jota, from Joseph, and from the rest of the team here in WOR, we'll see you next time for another round of Crossplay Legacy.